Welcome in, everybody. Glad to have you here for tonight's Uncle's Throwback Thursdays. Let me adjust everything here and get it right. Good to have you here tonight. We got a great guest, my buddy Ron Stewart, great banjo player, great fiddle player, great guitar player, just everything. Everything this guy does is great. Great singer, too, great producer, great engineer. Just Ron Stewart can do about everything. So anyway, we're going to have him on tonight. So uh, get your questions ready. You know, you can type in. You know, while we go over here, you can you make comments live if you want to ask Ron a question or anything. I'd be glad to pass them on to him. Maybe he can answer your question. It's not every day you get to talk to Ron Stewart, but I've got him. Well, I got him locked up tonight, so we got him for a little bit. But really glad to have you guys. Glad to have the folks that tune in every week to this. I hope we can just keep getting it. I'm not going to say better and better because our guests, our guests have been good all the way along, and I don't really look at having a guest roster build better and better. I think we've already been better and going level, but we're going to get a lot of really good people in here, and got some commitments from some really good ones today that's going to be on, but I can't announce till probably a couple of days who'll be here next week. But anyway, as usual, we talk a little bit before Ron comes on, and wanted to say it's been a fair week here for me. I've been sick again, not with my dialysis or cancer or anything. I've just had some kind of bug, and they always scare me with my cancer because they're a little harder to fight. But anyway, I'm doing good, and I'm not going to infect you since you're on the other side of the computer screen. So we're good. You might want to spray your screen down with some Lysol, though, just to be safe. So anyway, let's see what I got. I got a few things here. Got my slide compartment hat on. Why is that? My buddy Jared makes these slide compartments. And these things show what they do. Put all your picks and everything in them, right like that. Got these magnets to pop. When I first got these, I told him there's no way magnets would keep them, keep the lid closed in your case. But he proved me wrong. He bought some of the strongest magnets for their size, and you have to really pull at those to get them open. So if you're a dobro player, you need one of those. And don't forget also, Swing for the Fences. That's the my band, the All Stars. And we're going to be getting busy here. Well, actually, Sunday, our first rehearsal, we're trying to get things going for the All Stars #2 album. And speaking of albums, we got the Masters of Slide record finished up as far as mix master and everything Monday. And they're going to be getting that thing packaged, and hopefully by mid-May, that'll be for sale. Really, really proud to have the players on there that I did. But like I say, you can get anything over at my website at unclephilonline.com. Go in there and check out, a few things. We got some music and stuff there. So anyway, again, glad to be with you here tonight. Now let's talk about Ron Stewart a little bit. I've known Ron for a good while now, quite a few years. He was 2000 IBMA Fiddle Player of the Year, and let me remember, 2011 Banjo Player of the Year. And that's the year I wasn't at the IBMA because that's the year they found out I had cancer. So that's been a ways back. So he's won two of those on two different instruments is pretty impressive, I think. Let me see what else. He played with a lot of different people. He started playing fiddle at age 3, and he's played with people like Curly Seckler, the Lynn Morris Band. He came into J.D. Crow's band after I left. After me and the guys left to do Wildfire, he came in and played with J.D. Had a great band during that time. Ricky Wasson, Dwight McCall, and Harold Nixon, and Ron. Ron was playing fiddle then because Crow couldn't play fiddle. So anyway, it worked out real good. Ron really made a big difference in that group, having him there. And we're going to talk about that tonight. But after that, he left to join the newly formed Dan Tominski Band. Still have to turn down here a little. I'm busting my ears a little bit. So anyway, Dan Tominski Band, he came in, played with him for the whole time, but that was a band. Then he went with Longview, which was the band Don Rigsby and a few of them put together, and they've done a ton of records. Let's see, 2009, formed a band with Adam Steffi called the Boxcars, a really, really good band there. And when they disbanded, Ron went to the Seldom Scene. And I know Ben Eldridge will be listening in tonight. Ben and his wife always write me a note if we're going to tune in, and their buddies are Ron Stewart. Ben was an awesome banjo player, playing with the Seldom Scene, and Ron's filled some big shoes, but I know that Ben's glad to see him there, and Ron is Ron's in a good place. But let me see your comments. I don't see anything coming up yet, so I want to make sure we're getting comments tonight, even if you just say hey, so we'll know you can make some comments to Ron if you want to do that. So we got quite a few listeners on, so if you'll just pop up a comment over on the side, that would mean a lot. And I don't think comments are closed. Let me just check this out because this is kind of fishy. Nope, I don't guess it is. So wait a minute, let me get my video back. All right. Anyway, as I mentioned, talking about Ron Stewart, he should be calling in a little bit. But this is a guy that started out real young, and he was a protege very early. And he used to go by Fiddling Ronnie Stewart. And it's funny. I'm gonna tease him about a photo tonight that hope he's not listening already. But I'm not even gonna mention what it is because I've got a feeling he could be listening, and I don't want him to have a question or a quick answer. I just want to put him on the spot for a minute tonight. But really, get your questions together and write them in. And I still don't know why we're not getting a feed over here on the side. We usually get people's questions and stuff, but it looks like comments could be turned off or something. And I don't know about that. I don't know why. But if anybody's got any comments, please feel free to write them in over on your sideboard, because we would like to get your questions. But I just feel like for some reason something's going on over here. Let me check this, because we want to be able to have questions when Ron comes on. Let's see. Let's see. Say something about this live. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I think we may be in there now. Let me just look here. Let's see what I've done. Check in. No, you should be able to write in there, and I don't know why we're not. But anyway, we're not going. Oh, you know what? They're popping up at the wrong place. That's what's going on. Let me see if I can move those. I don't know how to move those, but oh well. We're getting a lot of questions. I didn't realize we had them. But Debbie Jones, glad to have you tonight. Lynn Lawson, Skaggs, glad to have you. Alec, Herta, I can't pronounce it. Alec, but glad to have you. Jeff Smith, glad to have you on tonight. Uh, Bryn says, hi, Uncle Phil from Mama Bear. Glad to have you, Mama Bear. Randy Green. Let me get this stuff off here. Wait a minute. Joy Shepard, more volume. You need more volume? Can you hear me pretty good? I can turn up if I need to, but I sure don't want to blast you guys out. So let me turn it up gradually. I'd like to ask Ron who his favorite banjo player is. Well, I can tell you one of those is me. And after that, I don't know. I know Ben Eldridge is one of his, and Ben and Barbara are tuned in at the moment. So Ben was always one of my heroes. But I do have to turn this down. I'm crushing my head with this. Ben was always one of my banjo heroes with the Seldom Scene, and I love those guys. One of the big reasons was Ben Eldridge. So glad to have you guys on. Ben, you're a hero, buddy. And Brian Westbrook says Ron Stewart's one of my favorites. Missing Steve, definitely. Laurie La Violette, I think. Hey, Phil. Hey there. Every week, Debbie Lynn Campbell tunes in. Glad to have you. Darren Peach, glad to have you. My nephew Chance, hey there, buddy. I want to go fishing with you sometime. You're catching all the fish. So let's hook up and do that sometime. We won't talk anything about music. We'll just talk about trout fishing. And I got a lot to learn from you. I know that. So Marsha Blackburn says, hello from Pennsylvania. Dan Millett, hello from Canada. Ed Pillagarda, hello from Faith, North Carolina. Clinton Rich, need volume? Do I need more volume, really? I'll crank it up if I need to do that. I can do that pretty easy. Just got to find out how to turn my headphones down. Right, here we go. How's that? Is that better? I gave it quite a bit more volume. So we'll see how that works. We should be okay. Just let me know if we're still having volume problems. And Vicky and Eddie Noss, some of my buddies, he said, I bought an old D35 from Ron several years ago. Enjoyed seeing your show. Glad to have you on. You folks on, good friends. Mark Kuykendall watching and listening over in Asheville. Hi to you and Ron. We were talking about you this week, Mark, a little bit. I was over in North Carolina doing some recording, and we were talking about you. Still having problems hearing me. I just don't know what it can be. Let me see what is going on here. Let's see. Let me know if this is better. Let me know if that's better. I've cranked the gain up pretty good on this. So just let me know if the volume is better now, okay? I want to get right before Ron gets on here and says, Barbara Eldridge, yes, turn it up. All right. I'm going to skin out the bottom just a minute and see the latest one about if anybody, somebody give me an update on if you can hear yet, because I just did some adjustments. And if not, I will make another plan. But I can hear myself really well. So let me know. Somebody tell me if you can hear me or not. Pretty good before Ron calls. Ron's getting ready to buzz in any time. Sound is good now, Phil. Good. Why is this skillet called skillet? I don't know. I don't know. You have to tell me. Or ask Ron. Ron will know. Just a little more. All right, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bump this gain. I'll take less off my headphones. Wait just a minute. Wait just a minute. Okay, I've got it covered now, I think. How's this? See if this is better. Now, I think that's gotta be better now. Give me an update. Have we got the sound okay? I gotta pull down my headphones a little bit more. Good. All right. That'll be perfect. Well, Ron should be calling in any minute. We got everybody online for that, so be sure and some questions if you have them when he calls in. And he's on Kentucky time, so they may be a little bit different, but he should be buzzing in anytime. So yeah, everybody says yep, that's a lot better, loud and clear, good. First time I saw Ron perform was, all right, let's see, let me get back up here. That Ron Stewart's loud, isn't he? Hey, Ron.
Hey, Phil, how are you?
Buddy, I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, man.
Good. Let me get you some volume here. Talk to me a little bit.
Hey, Phil, check 1 2, man.
Hey, you're good.
Hey,
Let me turn myself down a little bit because I'm crushing myself really hard here tonight.
That's good, though.
Hey, gosh, that's busting. Let's see. Let me turn this back some more, Ron.
Gotcha.
Maybe I just need to do it in my headphones or something. That's probably what it is. All right. Man, have you liked the way I've been talking about you tonight, being fresh out of the joint? Have you been catching that?
Absolutely, man. That is great.
That used to be something me and Gully always laughed about because one of the Chappelle shows. Did you ever watch Dave Chappelle?
It's been a while, but yes.
Yeah, we used to watch that a lot, and they had a little skit on there, and he had a friend named Lysol, and he always talked about him being fresh out of the joint. So for some reason, it just come up today when I was getting ready to talk to you. I thought I'm gonna just write this fresh out of the joint. So it was
killer, man.
It's funny to me, but buddy, we're glad to have you on tonight, man. We've been talking about you a lot, and me and you, well, I guess we're not really. Well, you're still a young guy. You're 8 years younger than me, but it's still.
Oh well, I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, man. I mean, well, to make you feel better, I'm 23, so you.
Hey, I love it.
It works good, but
it does.
Got a lot of people on tonight listening. I want you to tell me.
Good deal.
Yeah, man. We've got 3. I think 3 people, but it's good. One of them's Matt.
Oh man, that's 2 more than I thought we would have.
Oh, baby, you about making me laugh there.
Oh man.
Well, buddy, let me run through a few things here. We're just gonna talk around like I just try to make this like me and you're running down the road in a car, except.
Hey, that's all I know, man.
Well, except I'm not driving. You're driving because I can't see out of but one eye right now, so you don't want me behind the wheel.
I can't see out of one, and I'm blind out the other. So.
Well, you don't need it. You play that banjo like it's supposed to be, so you don't need eyes for that.
I got you fooled.
No, I know better than that. But yeah, let's talk a little bit here about some things. Sure. Let me turn my headphones on down. I hate hearing myself. It sounds so stupid, but. Oh well.
Oh, you're sounding like Wolfman Jack today, man.
Man, it's weird. I got to tell you something funny that you mentioned that. I was talking to Alan Bobby today, and we were talking about Wolfman Jack. And
no kidding.
Yeah, man. And the way this came up, when I was a nurse, we wouldn't leave the floor, but we'd take breaks, and they had one place you had to take a break, and it was like with patients and stuff, and it was a smoking area. It's the only place you could go, and I never smoked. So it used to kill me. So I was in there one day taking my break, and I see this guy over there in a hospital gown, and he's smoking a cigar in this little room. And I'm just sitting over there looking like, man, you need to put that cigar out. You're killing us with it. Well, the guy gets in his wheelchair and rolls back, and the the nurse comes out and said, "You know who that was, don't you?" And I said, "I don't know." I said, "Just a heavy cigar smoker." And she goes, "No, that's Wolfman Jack." So,
Oh my God.
yeah, I got an
Wow.
autographed picture of him and all that stuff.
Oh man,
But
that's awesome.
but it's weird, man. You brought that up, and
I know.
me and Alan, man. I know the show's going. It's gonna be good. That tells me something. But
Well, good deal, man. I hadn't thought of Wolfman Jack in a long time, and
he
when you
heard
said
me.
that, something just popped into my head. You know,
Well, it's my voice. I think I've
it is.
got some kind of bug. But Wolfman Jack. I mean, that sounds like that'd be a good voice if you're going to do
I'm telling you.
podcast. Sound like
I'm
Wolfman,
telling
you
you.
know?
Absolutely. There's a lot worse you could sound like.
Yeah, yeah, like me. So,
No.
but buddy, I'm gonna talk to you about some questions, some things here.
Sure.
Now, the first time I met you was, and we're gonna go back a little further, but you were playing with the Lynn Morris band,
Yes, sir.
and that's been, gosh, I don't know how long back, but that may have been, has that been
97, 8, somewhere in there.
Oh my gosh, yeah. That's about the time I
Yep.
met you. And then after that, it
Yep.
seems like I saw you everywhere. We were running into each other. But I do know that, for a lot of folks that don't know it, you're from Indiana.
Uh-huh.
And now, are you living in Kentucky now?
No, I'm at my home place in Indiana.
Oh,
Uh,
wow. Okay. So that's your
yep.
Sleepy Valley Ranch, right?
Sleepy Valley Ranch, the one and only.
That is
The
awesome,
one and
man.
only.
I remember when you
But
were
yeah,
talking about getting everything put together there. And what part of Indiana is that, Ron?
well, are you familiar with French Lick, home of Larry Bird?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Uh, I'm about 10 miles from French Lick. I'm out in the middle of the boondocks, but south central,
Hmm.
about 50 miles kind of west and a little north of Louisville.
That man, that's cool. I know where that is. Well, see, we got something in common. You know Shaquille O'Neal.
Yes,
I'm just about I think 2,300 miles from him. So
you
we're
are right on Shaq's back door,
we're
man.
kind of. I mean, you're kind of doing the same thing, you know. But let me
Oh, that's great.
let me run down some things here, man. Yeah, I think you may be, unless Justin Moses has won it. Aren't you the only guy that's won that I know of on two different instruments at the
That's
IBMA?
what I that's what I've heard, Phil. Honestly, I haven't really dug deep into that whole thing, but I think so.
That's really
Uh,
really great.
well, thanks. It cost me a lot of money for that.
Well, you're making it though. I mean, you own a
Well,
ranch and played with J.D.
yeah,
Crow. I
well,
know Crow paid you real good.
he did, man. You could buy 6 hot dogs a week
Wow.
at least, and that's four more than you really need.
Well, I always thought it was anyway. So, Crow never tunes into this stuff, but I wish he would. He'd have a good time.
Oh man,
Crow don't
I
like the
love that
internet.
man. He's one of Crow to me, and I know he is you.
Hmm.
Um, he's not a band leader or boss to me, and he never really was. He's
No.
just like a family member, you know.
Oh yeah. He he
Uh,
was always the same. I mean,
always.
me and him, I was there 13 years, and we had words two times, and they were over with. And we had words, and less than 5 minutes later, he was trying to get me in a headlock and skin my
Oh, I
head,
know
give
it.
me an Indian burn on the head.
I
Crow
know it.
just never holds grudges, does he? You know?
He never does, man. And I've noticed that about him. Uh, he doesn't hold. I mean, it takes an act of Congress to get him to hold a grudge. And if
Mm-hmm.
if he holds a grudge against you, you've done something bad.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You know, you've went across a lot of lines, and Crow holds a grudge against you.
You're a
But
promoter
I
that
love that
shorted
man.
him. Oh, he's the
Yeah,
best. He,
he is.
you know, he al- when we this was before you came into the band with Ricky and Dwight and all after we left, but you know, you know how Crow is. We'd go down the road and he'd talk about Earl Scruggs. He'd
Yep.
talk about Don Reno. Then he'd talk more about Earl Scruggs. Then he'd talk about
Right.
uh, Win Osborne. Then he'd talk more about Earl
Uh huh.
Scruggs. But you were one guy that he always, but before you joined the band and after you joined the band, he always talked about you. He just
Oh man.
he always talked about, said, now if I want to hear some good fiddle playing, I go listen. I go get Ron Stewart, and
Oh man. Well, that means more than you can know. And honestly, you know, I don't know what he heard in me, but I'm glad he did, and I'm glad I got the opportunity, as much as anything, to befriend him and
yeah,
you know, get to know him on a personal level.
yep, yep,
Aside from being the best behind a fiddle that's other than Scruggs that's ever been. Uh, but just befriending him and setting up in a bus and watching Beavis and Butthead,
oh
you know,
yeah, yeah. Uh,
uh,
he
that kind of thing. As you
he.
know,
I see. I got him on that. We
I have you to thank then.
well, he used to do weird things like we would get in town, and you know how JD is. He was never ready to go to bed,
Oh,
and
never.
we would go to somewhere, and it'd be late. It'd be 2 in the morning, and here would go. My telephone would ring, and it would be JD doing a real cheap version of Beavis, and
Oh, absolutely.
and he thought he was nailing it, but he wasn't. But
I know
I
it.
always told him he was. I'd say,
Oh, absolutely.
I always used to get him. I'd say, man, that's a good bud head, and he said, I was doing Beavis. I said, oh, yeah, it was a good Beavis. but
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
I hear you, man.
we got
I hear you loud and clear.
oh, I got him hooked on that stuff, and but he just loved you to death, Ron. I mean, and I didn't.
I love JD too, man.
Well, I didn't mean only fiddle. He when he talked about banjo players, he always talked about. He said for somebody out there that's really, he says I don't say copying me, but somebody out there that's getting what I'm trying to do. He said it's Ron because he's getting it,
Wow.
and he always said that. He said he's the next guy right there that's going to really take over on the banjo. I mean, he really, you know,
Oh man.
Crow didn't throw him out easy to
Well,
to
I do know
anybody.
that, and that really makes me feel good. And I mean, I know he doesn't he doesn't throw compliments around
No,
like that. But I don't know what he's hearing because I sure don't hear it. But
well, I
I'm
do.
sure glad he does.
Well, if you don't hear it, I was looking through just brushing up on you a little bit tonight, and you've been on so many records and recordings, and
Oh boy.
it's amazing. I mean, I'm not saying the recordings around town where guys are wanting to do a $20 record. These are major records, and you're playing on so many of them. And
Well, I guess I've been real lucky, Phil. I love to do session work. I love to be in the studio, whether it's playing or producing or
mm,
engineering or whatever,
yeah, you're
and I always
great.
have.
Yep.
But I've just been lucky, I guess, in the fact that um, you know, people hear something that they like. But you know, I'm gonna have to. I got to give a shout out to my dad
Yeah.
and mom. Real, yeah, I know that's an odd tie together there, but when I first started wanting to play, which was basically bouncing up and down in the crib until I got, you know, was able to hold a fiddle, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
my dad would always tell me, he's like, play the melody
Mm-hmm.
and don't play a bunch of notes that don't mean anything,
Right.
you know. still to this day, um, that's the first thing that I mean, we've been in the studio several times, but first thing I'm listening to, whether I'm playing with you guys or whether whoever it is, I'm listening to the song and getting a melody and
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to stay out of the way, you know?
Oh man, you do it perfect. And
Oh gosh.
I just, you did, you know, talking, stepping back from the banjo just a minute, but you engineered and helped us put together the first flashback record, and I'd have to say, man, you in the studio, you're killer. You've got everything covered pretty good. If banjo goes out of work, you could be a engineer.
Well, I appreciate that. And I had a ball working on your all's project and being on it too. I don't know. I've been so lucky over the years to work with such great people. You all are top notch.
Well, thank you,
And,
buddy.
I mean, the list is on and on, but I really enjoyed that because you all don't sound like anybody else. You sound like yourselves,
Well,
and
that's
you guys
important.
make it easy. I mean, it's easy
Well,
to do.
it was
Try not
just
to
a
mess
lot.
it up.
Well, it was just a lot of fun being there with you and Ricky at the same
Oh
time,
man.
because Ricky's just, Ricky Wasson, just,
Oh, he's the best.
yeah, he's killer, and he's got a great studio too.
He does.
And
He sure does.
Ricky's like that with you too, Ricky. I know
Oh well.
he would always mention your name, and he'd go Rod Stewart on that fiddle, and Ricky would look down and go and turn his head like like he was tasting soup or something. But
Oh man. Well,
he's a
I
big
feel the
fan.
same way about Rick. He's honestly being a fiddle player or trying to be a fiddle player.
Man, no better.
One of the things with me, man, is I love to play backup fiddle more than anything in the world.
Hmm.
And Rick is one of my favorite singers on earth to try to
Oh
play
yeah.
behind.
Oh yeah.
Uh, Tone and phrasing and pitch, it's all there.
Hmm.
And I mean, let me be clear, I'm not mentioning anyone else because I have many favorite singers,
Sure.
but we were talking about Rick, and he's just one of the best.
Oh yeah. He is, and he's a really good guitar player too.
Yes, he is.
Playing behind his singing, man,
Oh man,
he just really got it down, and I
he's a
don't.
good musician. He plays
Yeah,
more than the guitar, and
I know he does.
he's a good mandolin player.
Yep, yep, he is.
Um, Good banjo player. I mean, Rick's one of those guys that's just there's a lot there that sometimes people don't see.
Mm,
You know.
he's smart. He's one of the
Uh,
smartest
oh my
guys,
gosh,
and
he sure is.
he owns about everything in his town. I mean, from the police
I know it.
radios to uh,
I know it.
the ambulance radios. He's
Yep,
cell phones. Ricky's just been smart with stuff. But
he is. He
moving on,
sure is.
moving on here, because I don't want to tie you up too long. But we got all night. But
Oh, I've got all the time in the world,
all
Phil.
right then, buddy. Throw back your shoes and cut you off some ham and chill. We're gonna answer some mail here in just a minute. People writing
Sure,
in. But moving on from Crow, when you left, you went straight into the Dan Tominski band. Is that right?
that is correct. Yeah, and I'll tell you honestly, that was one of the hardest things that I ever did on a personal level.
Yeah.
Was leaving the New South
Yeah.
for a myriad of reasons, but it was also something I felt like I needed to do at the time.
Hmm.
And um, I guess the Tominski band, we did it for two seasons,
Right.
and man, it was a really cool, great bunch of music. You
Oh
know,
yeah. Sure.
um, that was just an awesome experience. I've known Dan for years and years,
Yeah.
and all those guys, but
Hmm.
uh, it was really fun. And then obviously after that we started the box cars.
Right, right.
When the Tominski thing we saw, he was going back out on the road with Allison and whatnot. So
Hmm.
um, we decided to do that, and that's sort of how that all came to be. We wasn't sure what we were going to do, and just thought, well, why not? You know.
I really like the box cars. Uh,
Well, thanks, man.
I just thought you guys had a whole, uh, well, just everything across. I mean, uh, I've known Keith Garrett forever. I've always
Yeah.
thought that he was underrated and
Oh, absolutely.
never got the shot, but he did. Finally got it with you guys, and he, Keith is awesome, and I
Oh my
was.
gosh.
I've been really impressed. Matter of fact, I'm doing a big dobro project. Uh, got like 23 players on it. We did mastered yesterday, and I used
I
a.
think I worked on a track on that with Fred Travers, right?
Yeah, you did. Oh man, Fred played a
That
beautiful
I can't wait
song.
to hear that whole project.
Yeah, it's really good. Fred played a beautiful track on that, and I
Oh
wondered,
man.
I wondered who everybody was on it, but I used Gary Holtman on it, and Gary is
Yep.
just man, he's not only a great uh, guy that can play, like with Blue Highway, he can play all that Rob stuff,
Yep.
and and if you don't know it, he works hard to learn it, and the guy's a
I'm
good
telling
singer
you.
too, good singer. So
Uh, Gary is one of those guys that you meet. Obviously we hire. He came on in the box cars
hmm
after John Bowman left the band,
hmm
and Gary is just one of those guys that's a rare form.
yeah,
Personally, he's as good as it gets,
hmm
and man, the guy can absolutely
come
play
with
the
it.
five.
Yep.
And he's a great singer. And funny, you brought up Gary Holtman,
hmm
and this is kind of a selfless plug here, but my wife and I are actually doing a project right now together.
Oh, that's cool,
And
cool.
Gary, Gary is going to be, he's playing dobro on
Man,
part of it.
man, that's awesome.
So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I,
Well,
I love his playing.
he's awesome, and
Oh, man.
we were talking. It was kind of funny just visualizing him, but he's in between music like everybody is right now, and he was telling me he
Yep.
just got a job working for the animal shelter, and
Mm,
this was I was talking to him like a night before or something before he was going to start, and I said, man, I don't think I could do that, and I said I just couldn't be there to watch them put animals down all the time. And
hmm
he kind of paused for a minute and he goes, "Yeah, I think that's going to be hard." And
hmm
Gary seems very tender-hearted to me, so uh,
He is.
that
He is.
he may not. As Grandpa Jones said to me one time, I went to drive their motor home and I didn't want to drive because he started appointing drivers. I was probably 23, so
Uh-huh.
I curbed the tires, I hit curbs, I did everything, and we got done, and he got the keys, and he used to call me Otto, and he looked over and he goes, "Well, Otto, I don't think driving an RV is in your forte," and
Right.
so that's what I was thinking with Gary. Gary, he may already be gone from the shelter. I don't think that's his forte because I think he's
Uh,
too
it
tender-hearted
takes a special person,
to do that.
and by special I mean someone,
Hard.
it's like being a doctor or a nurse or anything else
Yeah, yeah, it is.
where you're involved with life in some form.
Yeah, yeah,
It takes a special kind of person
to do that.
to deal with all the aspects involved with that.
It really is. And I know
You
as a
know.
nurse, I dealt with death a lot. And
Oh man.
and it's weird because with me, and it's going to sound, uh, I don't mean it to be calloused or whatever it is, but
Right.
it got to a point with people a lot of times that it was like, they're going to be better off. They're really sick. They're
Right.
whatever. And I was
Right.
able to reason that, but it's been hard for me since, I guess because I'm not in that line. I've had to let
Right.
loose of pets and have them put down, and man, it was just the hardest thing.
Oh
It
my
was,
gosh.
it was just, it was terrible. And
It's unreal.
people that don't own pets don't realize how hard
Uh,
that is. But
I 100% agree. It's one of the worst things that, just
it can do.
mentally
Yeah, yeah,
draining and psychological, you know,
yeah.
it is hard,
It really
you know.
is. But Gary, that's funny how we got off into that from Gary. But Gary is not only monster player and singer, but a really great guy, and I'm glad to have him on this. And man, I'm really glad to have Fred Travers on because
Oh man,
Fred has
there's
been,
another monster right there.
man, he has been overlooked too long, and
Amen.
he
Amen.
he
He's a master of his craft.
he really is. And he came right into the band, which you've done the same thing. I was listening to uh, Pan American here earlier. You guys out under a
Oh
tent,
gosh.
man, that's killer. I listen to that once every few days, and
Oh boy.
I'm getting ready to say that you're playing like a lot of the Ben Eldridge stuff, and the reason I'm saying that is Ben's tuned in right now. So
Well, hey Ben.
yeah, he's tuned in, and
Well,
anyway,
man, he's one of my heroes, man. And I honestly started listening to the scene. I was about knee high to a grasshopper
hmm
when Act One came out,
me
but I
too.
vividly remember uh, getting that LP, my parents,
hmm
and hearing "Raised by the Railroad Line."
Oh
And when I heard
heck
that,
yeah,
it was over right there. I
yeah,
instantly became a fan.
yeah, man. I remember getting that album. I'm 8 years older than you, so it would have
Right,
been I don't know. I probably got that when I was maybe 12 or something,
right,
and I
right.
remember that one and "Won't of a Woman" just killed
"One
me.
of a Woman's" unreal,
God, what a
and
song!
the "Hanging Around"
Oh man, the
and "Darling
monkeys.
Corey."
Heck
Darling
yeah.
Corey,
Yeah.
that right there to me is just a schooling on arrangement.
Oh gosh, yeah. And Duffy, you know, when I was young, I didn't appreciate Duffy, and as I got older, I realized I said, "Man, this guy's a genius. He's a
He is
he's a
absolutely.
genius. You listen to a lot of his singing just on stuff, and he
Oh man,
always knew where to punch it. He would find the spot and he'd punch it.
absolutely.
And,
And he signed it every time he did. It was, yeah.
yep,
You've heard Crow say that a million times,
yep.
but you could tell Duffy immediately he would sign it.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
great musicians and singers have that. They sign whatever they're on very quickly, and you
Do
know who it is very fast. And
definitely.
Duffy was like that.
Oh
You knew
yeah,
it immediately.
definitely. And I just, all the Seldom Scene records, I liked every one of them. I was
Oh my
I
gosh.
was talking about the Seldom Scene earlier today with Herb Peterson because we're looking for some material, and was asking Herb about some of the music, and he pitched me "Easy Ride from Good Time to the Blues," and I said that's on the new Seldom Scene record, I believe.
Yes.
And
Which is a great album.
gosh, yeah, uh, uh, that one's a killer too. And California Earthquake, I always loved that.
Oh my gosh.
All the Seldom Scene records, I just loved them.
The material, I mean, you're hitting on it there. I mean, you go back to Act One all the way through, and the material is just stout
Oh gosh,
on
yeah.
every record,
Mm-hmm.
and vocally, I put the scene vocally up there with with the Osborne
Of
brothers,
course.
the New South Classic Trio. I mean, they're in that whole mix
Yeah.
of 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 trios vocally, and it's funny. And I know Ben, I know you're listening there, Ben, but uh, when I first joined the band, we were at Ben's house, sitting on the porch, and John Starling came over. He was living just a block or two away at the time.
Wow.
He came over, and I got to um, pick a couple with John, which was incredible. But
Wow.
he was talking, they when they first started the band, um, and I wouldn't have put this together, I guess, because I'm stupid. But
No, I doubt that.
as soon as Ben told me, it made perfect sense. But he said, "Man, we patterned after the Osborne brothers."
Really?
And
Didn't.
okay, when I first said it, I thought, "What?" Because you don't sound like them. And
Mm-hmm.
then I remember leaving that night, and I was just listening through some scene stuff here and there, and I'm like, "Wait a minute, I totally get it."
Mm-hmm.
As far as their harmony and trio, if you listen to it, there is an element of that in there,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it really caught me off guard at the time. But I mean, it made perfect sense once I listened again. It was like, oh my God, I totally hear that.
Well, John Starling has always been one of my favorite singers. I think he was one of the best there's ever been. And
Absolutely.
all his stuff, he was a cross between bluegrass and country. And,
Yes.
when you were mentioning albums and trademark stuff, and I think it was Act Two, Hello Mary Lou. Was it that on Act
Oh
Two?
my gosh.
And Duffy
Yes, that's
sung
on
the
that too.
crap out of that. You
Oh
know,
my God.
it's,
That and then you've got on the other end of that spectrum, you've got Last Train from Poor Valley on
oh
that
yeah,
same album.
man. Wasn't it
And
Norman Blake too, or was that, am I right?
yes,
Yeah,
it was Norman Blake. But I mean, the whole arrangement on Poor Valley.
was different.
And then when you move up to Act Three,
Mm-hmm.
I remember getting that album,
Mm-hmm.
and my world changed with that
Oh,
album
me
because
too.
sonically, that album will stand up to anything you put on the turntable.
Oh yeah.
And then, not to mention everything on that album, uh, all the way from uh, Georgia
The
Rose
Muddy Waters,
and Muddy Waters, Ryder, the cut of
Ryder.
Ryder.
Oh
I
gosh,
think Ben told me was the second take on that. That
man,
was that was that.
that's
And and then you've got another Lonesome Day
gosh, yeah, that was a
and
killer
oh,
song.
and Heaven to close it all
Oh
out.
yeah,
And
man, heaven.
you know,
Well,
I don't know.
when it's funny, you're probably like I am with this, but I had heard all those songs, and then they turn it and they do the Cellar Door album, and I got to
Right.
hear all this stuff in live context, and I was telling I was telling somebody last few weeks, I don't remember who it was, but that album did a lot for me because I heard these people play, but I wanted to hear their voices. I wanted to hear what Ben
Yes.
Eldridge sounded like. I wanted to hear what Mike Aldridge sounded like talking. And,
Absolutely.
and, you take all that and then, I don't know, it's like that night there was or I guess it may have been a couple nights they did that. There was so much magic that the songs
Oh
were
my
just
God.
popping. And,
Oh man.
I think some of the songs they did on Cellar Door was actually better than some of the album cuts. Uh,
Oh, I agree. That album right there, man, is one of those albums you can mark down, sort of like the 044
oh
album
yeah,
and different ones that when that album come out, it changed everyone.
oh it did, it did,
You know.
it did a bunch for me. Cause I
Yep.
listened to it and listened to it and listened to it, and about the time I was really not getting tired of it, but I think my dad was tired of. My dad loved bluegrass, but I was playing it all the time, And then here comes the new Seldom Scene album, and it
Absolutely.
was a little different, but I loved that album. And then
Oh man.
just everything, I just loved everything they've done. I mean, even with the stuff that, which was an excellent choice doing the album with Jonathan Edwards.
Oh,
Uh,
that's an unbelievable project.
Gosh, man, and it put him into a different circle, and
Absolutely.
I think Mike Aldridge's connection with Linda Ronstadt and everything uh,
Sure.
also brought the band into a different light. I mean, Seldom Seen
I agree.
were celebrities. They were bluegrass Beatles to be.
Absolutely. I agree. I mean, I still think of, I mean, I'm a member of the Seldom Scene, but when I hear Seldom Scene, I think just that, like the Beatles
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah,
bluegrass. It's
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
whoa,
yeah.
you know,
You know,
these dudes here are in a whole different, uh,
whole different thing.
on a different plane.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well, and I know you had the same thing with J.D. Crowe.
sure,
Looking over at JD and thinking, man, this is the guy I used to see with
I
Skaggs
know,
and Douglas and all these people,
absolutely.
and it was easy sometimes when you're with somebody, play it all the time, that you do occasionally have to stand back and look in and go, whoa, you know,
Oh, absolutely, and I still, I mean, you know, I can't count the times that on stage, just what you just said, you think, okay, this was the guy that I'm wearing grooves into records from the Jimmy Martin era, and then along comes 044.
hmm
Oh my God, this
cha-
is the dude
changed it.
that was, yeah, he changed the world right there.
I
The
remember my
world of
dad.
bluegrass.
I remember my dad brought me that in. I didn't know who J.D. Crowe was, but I put it on, and I never got to listen to much of the rest of the album for about 2 days, and you'll know where I'm going with this. I hit I hit "You Are What I Am" was the first thing I listened to, and I couldn't
Yep,
get off of it. Crow's
I
banjo
hear
intro,
exactly what you're saying.
dang man, and it was just the best. And then I started.
I know. I drove my parents crazy like that too. It would, be like, are there more than one song on that album?
Yeah,
Is there?
I was the same way, and Tony Rice didn't play a solo on that, and after I finally decided to move to another track, and I hear Tony Rice, it's like, good golly, you know,
Uh-huh. What am I missing here? I better listen through this.
yeah, I mean, at the time I was, listening to Norman Blake and Dan Crary, and here comes Tony Rice, and it's like, I don't know how to compare it. It was a whole different level, and hearing,
Yeah, there was no comparison. It was
no,
on a different plane in a different universe,
mm-hmm, it was,
in a different, I mean, Tony for me as well as a million others. Uh, when I first heard Tony, that was a life changer,
oh yeah,
and still to this day,
mm-hmm,
I Tony stuff is on repeat play
mm-hmm,
constantly,
yep,
and it's
same
it's
here,
like the flat. It's one of the only things I can compare somewhat to the Flat and Scruggs music in that there are things that I hear new on Tony's records that I've played it 400 billion times that'll pop up, and I'll be like, I never noticed that before.
mm-hmm.
And to me, that's when music is done at its absolute best.
Oh
Like
yeah, y-
you can't get beyond that. And you've
mm-hmm,
probably had those same epiphanies or revelations with
definitely,
Flat and Scruggs or Tony or you know
Skaggs,
whatever. Yes, yes, that you'll listen to this stuff for years and years, and all of a sudden you hear something you never heard before on there.
yeah, it's constant.
You
It
know?
seems like, and I
Yep.
think a lot of that's as we've got older and realized some of the
Yeah.
little things that we thought were little things Go try to play those
Right.
little things. They're hard to play. you know,
Absolutely.
they're not little things anymore. But
No, they're huge. They're huge. And Crow and I used to talk about that, and I'm sure you did too. Sometimes it's the tiniest of things that are the biggest of
oh
things.
yeah, definitely,
You
definitely.
know,
Crow always
one
talked
note.
about that less is more, and
Hmm.
he talked to me one time about, you know, we were talking about musicians that were busy, and Crow always told me, he said, I look at BB King, and these musicians will play 15 notes, and BB still bending that one note. And he said,
Thank you
that's a
very
one I
much.
want. Yeah, thank you very much. Said, that's a one I go back and listen to because he wanted it, he wanted to hear that.
Absolutely.
And,
Absolutely. And there's so much in that one note, and that's why it's so good.
yeah.
It's from the heart and it's soul, and Chubby Wise could do the same thing on a
Oh,
fiddle.
gosh, yeah, Chubby sure could. And,
One note, and he could get more emotion and feeling out of one note
mhm.
than most fiddle players could get out of 50.
And,
You know,
people nowadays, and I'm not knocking on anybody because we've been through all this, but I think there's some, I've talked to some people that I'll see picking and they'll say, hey, we're going to do a third time out tune. And, I'll listen and I'll say, that's a Flat and Scruggs tune. And
right?
Russell would tell you that too. But people's knowledge of and depth of stuff, sometimes
Right.
you get an album and you say, "Wow, the guys wrote these tunes." And I've been busted before when I was a kid. I'd bring
Sure.
something and say, "Listen to this song that so and so wrote," and they'd say, "He didn't write that. That's a Buddy Holly song." I said, "Oh, okay, I knew
Exactly.
that." but
Right.
and I didn't know. I
Well, man,
didn't.
it's funny you bring that up.
Yeah, I didn't
It's
know.
it's it's funny you bring that up because Ricky Watson and I were talking the other day about this very thing,
hmm
and I told him, I said, you and I, Ricky and I, and you, all three of us are fairly close in age,
hmm
and we grew up as as in a way the last generation that got to see the first generation,
Right.
if
Right.
that makes sense,
Right.
and grow up with that stuff being available in the market and also
I
available
know.
live.
I know exactly where you're
Um,
coming from there.
yeah, and I think it makes a difference because now, obviously, we're a generation to two generations removed.
We are.
Uh, and yeah,
We. I was talking to someone here not too long back about, at the age that I'm coming in, these guys. I mean, I've seen everybody uh, except I never got to see Don Reno live or Carter Stanley. That's the only two I never got to see.
right,
But I got to see Monroe, I got to see Flat, I got to see Scruggs, and these guys. If you look at this, let's say jazz music, okay, uh, it's been around a long time, but there were people just like us there during the creation of jazz that got to
right,
hear. They're gone, and we've been able
right.
to witness the creation of bluegrass because it's right there. It's Bill Monroe, Flat and
Yep,
Scruggs, and we got to see
right.
all those. Jimmy Martin, uh,
Yes,
just that whole
yep,
bunch. Osborne's, and
yep,
anyway, it's just we've been at a real good time for stuff, and one day they'll be on doing a podcast talking about. Said, you remember those guys that plays banjo? That old guy,
yes,
Ron Stewart, played the fiddle too.
exactly.
Say, yeah. Said, I think I've heard of him
Right. He
somewhere.
used to scratch a horrible fiddle on some of these records. Oh God.
That ain't so. That's because they got a scratchy record. You know, it was funny when you were talking about the Seldom Scene album, how sonically well it was done. the first copy
Oh
I
man.
had of that, a buddy of mine gave it to me, and it had rolled around in the floorboard of his car, and it was scratched all up. Well, I bought another uh, copy of that later on, and that's when, just like what you said, I realized, man, that is a well done, well mixed
Oh my
album.
God.
You know,
Yeah, and Rice did California Autumn basically with the scene
right,
right at that same time.
right
And the sonic quality on California Autumn is nearly identical
to that.
to Act Three, which makes perfect sense.
Hmm.
But those two albums, the reverbs on those two albums, to me,
Hmm.
haven't been touched since then.
No, they're perfect, and
Just the tone of the reverbs.
I knew who I was talking to now was telling me all this. I had Tom Gray on as a guest a few weeks ago, and he
Oh
was
man.
telling me about making doing the California Autumn album
Uh huh.
and all, and basically he said the same thing that you're saying.
Oh man.
And I knew I had heard
Well,
it somewhere, but
well, I'll tell you, man. I think if I'm pretty sure Tom told me that Act Three, he had just got that the bass that he still plays with the carved top,
hmm,
and you can tell it on that album that it's a carved top bass.
you know,
Um, excuse me.
I think I'm wanting to think now. Let me get my marbles right on this. Uh, Cheryl White always used to talk about his bass, and
Uh huh.
and she always said that was her favorite bass that he had.
It's a
And
good one.
oh yeah, it is. And and Cheryl, she had a bass that she had got that she really liked, and she named it Ed after Ed Ferris. And
Uh huh.
I asked her, I said, why didn't you name it? Uh, no, why didn't you name it Tom? And she said, well, I was in love with Ed Ferris at the time. I wanted a bass named Ed, so she still got a bass named Ed. But Tom,
Oh,
they always used to when he was around. Both the Whites girls would, because I played with them a little bit, a year and a
uh huh.
half, something like that. But they would always make a big to do over Tom, and he'd love it. He'd just grin and
Oh man,
stuff.
he's a mess.
He's first class. But see what I'm
He
gonna
is.
do real quick. I'm gonna go to some questions because I've got
Sure.
people that don't think I'm gonna ask no questions, not that I'm missing them. So let me go up through here, buddy.
Well, hopefully I can answer them
Oh well,
or want to.
well. Here's one. Who cut your hair? No, that's not on there. I was gonna ask who cut your hair.
My sister-in-law. I'll answer
Okay.
that one.
Doug Klein, a friend of mine, said, loves my glasses. You can't see them, but they are cool. I mean, I got some really cool glasses on. So thank you, Doug. I just have to say, as Lester Flatt said, class when you're looking at it. You know where that's from, don't you?
That's awesome. Yes,
You,
sir.
you know. Let me get up here where I can go down and read. This thing will scroll better. Okay, let's see. My buddy Barney Rogers is in. He loves his music. And let's get on down through here.
Right on.
Let's see. Let me scroll down. We got a bunch of people. Uh, let's
If you
see.
see one from Fred Travers or Ronnie Simpkins, I probably don't want to answer that one.
Well, I've already. I just passed on both of them because I've got
I'm
the.
just kidding. I love them.
Oh yeah, they're the best. But I've got the what they call the strictly G-rated thing. You have to write on this,
Yeah.
and they were slipping over into the R and the X, so I skipped on that. While I'm getting ready to start reading these and things. Let's me and you talk one minute. We've got a good buddy in common, Steve Gully. We both did a lot of work with him,
Oh man.
and
Let me tell you something, man. That we've lost a lot of people in the last year,
yeah, we have.
and Steve obviously was a shock.
Yeah,
But man, I love Steve Gully.
he did you too.
Steve was always the same.
Mm-hmm.
and I got to work a lot with Steve,
Mm-hmm.
um, doing work at his studio or whatnot, but got to know Steve, and just, man, what a talent, and what a good dude,
Yeah, definitely.
with me, it's all about the person,
Yeah,
the talent is just the cherry on top, but
secondary.
Steve, man, is, I, what a loss to our music,
No.
but more importantly, what a loss as a friend.
Yeah.
And I know
Yeah.
you were very close with Steve,
Yeah.
uh,
We,
and
we met when we were
just
12 and hung out.
wow.
And this week I'm going to rehearse with my band. And Steve was in the band I'm in now. That's the All Stars band. And
Hmm.
this is the first, what I would say, trip without Steve.
Oh
and
boy.
and it's weird, man. I'm, after I got sick, he was like, he would always like mother dog me, make sure I was
Absolutely.
okay. He would uh, he would talk to my wife, to let her know how, she'd say, "Let me talk to Steve," and then I'd hear Steve say, "He's telling you pretty straight. He's okay." And she'd always say, "Well,
Right.
I'm just glad you're out there with him." And Steve always felt, I found out after he passed, his wife had told me he always felt, after I got sick, uh, his calling to watch after me while we were on the road. And
Hmm.
and without him, man, it's just a whole different thing, and
Oh man.
I'm not sure what I'm going to do, how long I'm going to play or what, because it's definitely, my music world changed when he left. And
Sure.
but I knew you guys spent a
Uh-huh.
lot of time together and stuff, and he really just thought the world of you, and there's nobody could play any better than you. When he would
Oh my
talk, it was
gosh.
always Ron. Say if I had my bunch, if I had Ron and Steffi and those guys right there, he
Wow.
said that's the A team, and
Well, and the feeling was mutual there.
yeah,
And I gotta, my heart goes out to Debbie.
yeah,
You,
yeah.
you know, I know, I don't know. I haven't been through that obviously, but I just can't imagine. And I just, you know, my heart
I
breaks for
know,
Debbie.
I know. It just nobody expected this, and which I've said this
I
before,
know.
but I tried so hard to get him to a big hospital because I knew something was going on, and Steve kept
Yeah.
stopping at these little hospitals, and Debbie told us the only time Steve would take it serious and go to a doctor or a hospital is if his voice was scratchy and he
Right.
needed some antibiotics. Other than that, Steve was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get better. It's gonna be better. It's gonna do better." And Steve became a really bad diabetic about three years before he died. And I know now that that's all due to what was going on in his body because
Right.
that's where your insulin's made in your pancreas, and
Right.
his was so big. Debbie sent
Oh
me,
boy.
Debbie sent me, and I know it's his personal stuff, so I probably shouldn't say much about it. It's kind of
Sure.
hard, but I had heard, one of the doctors talking to him, and she asked about this thing on his stomach, and she said, "How long has that been going on?" And he said, "Oh, I didn't know it was there." And she goes, "There's no way." And Debbie had said
Hmm.
later that she knew something was going on there, with that, but Steve wouldn't go in.
Right.
I don't know with pancreatic cancer if that, even if he had went in,
Right.
they still can't do anything much with that.
Right.
It's just too much. But Steve was one of those guys. He never, to me, Steve never got his due. He was way better in so many areas with what he could do writing and
Oh
everything.
boy.
And it just, and I know he just deserves so much more uh, than
Yep.
than what he got. You know,
Yeah, I
but the
agree.
musicians like you know what he was. And anyway, I wanted to bring him up. I knew me and you spent a lot of time with him, especially up at the
Oh man,
camp, being stupid
it,
at LMU.
oh my gosh, he was one of the funniest guys on this planet. You and him are like you would alternate between the funniest person award every year. It would be
Alternate. That's
Phil
good.
Ledbetter and Steve Gully.
Well,
And I mean that as a
I know
compliment.
that. I know. Hey, buddy, the more of that you can throw at me, that's what I like. You know that because I'd rather be funny than be the best dobro player in the world.
I
Or,
hear you. You make a lot more money doing
oh
that.
yeah, and I don't mean in the world, on the world. If I did the world, I'd be burning up somewhere near the core. But let me get down here and read some of this stuff. I keep saying I'm going to
Sure.
do this, but uh, uh, Alex uh, looks like Hurtabias said the first time he ever saw you perform was with the Lynn Morris Band in 2003. So that
All right.
goes back a long way. Now,
It sure does.
were you playing with Lynn when Rob was in the band?
No, Rob wasn't in the band, and um, funny story how I even got in that band. If you want me to tell this
Yeah,
story,
sure.
uh, and I don't know whether the picture came from you or whether Steve got this picture, but
Oh, I know what it
I
is.
was a you know where this is headed, but
Mm-hmm.
I was the only male member of
Petticoat
Petticoat
Junction.
Junction ever in that band.
That was my
And so,
picture. I found it when I was
yeah.
booking. Andrea sent it to me, and I said,
Oh wow.
"That guy looks like Ron Stewart." And we
Hmm.
didn't Gully hang it up at his studio.
Yes, I went down and did a session there, and he was like, "But you got to come and see this photo." And I walked in, and I'm like, "Oh my god!"
uh, yeah.
But anyway, we were playing. Lynn was scheduled to play Luckett's. This was sometime in December
Uh huh.
of '96,
Uh huh.
early December, and Lynn was scheduled to play Luckett's, and Tom and Audie had just left the band,
Mm-hmm.
and so she had called Andrea, seeing if Petticoat Junction wanted to take that date.
Mm-hmm.
So we went up and played that, and we played somewhere else, but we played Luckett's, and we stayed with Lynn and Marshall,
Mm-hmm.
and of course we hung out and we picked a little one night there, and we were actually gonna Petticoat Junction was gonna stop doing live stuff,
Mm-hmm.
you know, basically after the first of the year coming up. And so I had mentioned to Lynn, hey, if you ever need somebody to fill in or whatever, don't hesitate to give me a call because I'd love to get a chance to pick with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So Lynn called. I guess she had called Andrea to make sure, hey, are you guys, you
Good
know,
with it. Good.
fairly finished, whatever.
Yeah.
And so Lynn called me, and I got hired playing the mandolin and fiddle,
Really?
because that's what I was playing with Petticoat Junction was mandolin and fiddle.
Yeah.
And so Lynn, obviously she heard me play mandolin and fiddle
Mm-hmm.
on the show with them, and I sang some harmony and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so fast forward about a month, and I learned all the harmony parts, the part under Lynn, which is higher than a Georgia
Right.
pine for me,
Mm-hmm.
but learned all those harmony parts and the mandolin stuff and whatnot. So Lynn Lynn had a show about I don't know, end of January, 1st of February.
Mm-hmm.
She had a show in Owensboro and a show at the Henry IV Lodge in St. Louis. You probably remember
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
place.
Terry Lease, I think, did those.
Uh huh. Yep. And so she called and she said, "Hey, I've got Jesse Brock filling in for this show, but would you consider, uh, would you want to try to play banjo on these two gigs?" And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Absolutely. That would be great."
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
on the way back from those gigs, she's like, "What do you think about maybe doing the banjo and fiddle and, blah, blah, blah." So, I never even got to play the first show on Mandolin, which I did a couple later that year because that
Mm-hmm.
first year there was kind of plethora of mandolin players we used on a fill-in basis.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember Jesse was on that first one, and I told Lynn, I'm like, okay, we need to get this guy
Mm-hmm.
on mandolin. Uh, he's just a spark plug.
It's a good move.
And so finally talked him into coming into the band at the end of that first year. And from there on, it was, by the time, Lynn had her stroke, I think that was 2002, or early 2003. By that time, man, that band was like falling off a log. It was so easy.
Yeah.
But ironically, the last show I played live with Lynn was on the West Coast. Jesse had to go home for his job a day early. And she got Lloyd Douglas to come out, and she had asked me, she said, would you want to play mandolin? And I was like, yeah, sure. So the last show that I ever played live with Lynn was actually on the instrument I got hired to do in the first place.
Wow.
I have that show on DAT.
Was that her last show,
yeah,
being able to play?
It was, yeah, that was her last, that was the last show before she went in and got her surgery and subsequently had the stroke.
Man, her and Marshall, they're two of the best people in the whole world.
Absolutely.
I think.
Absolutely. There's none better.
Well, that's awesome, man. I for some reason I thought when you went in, that's why I asked you. I said mandolin. I thought for some reason you went in playing fiddle with her, and I didn't know that. So
yeah, I played. Well, I got hired on the mandolin and fiddle, then immediately got hired on banjo. And so I never, I only played a couple shows that first year on mandolin. When I think Tony Trischka played a couple shows with us, and I played mandolin on those.
Cool.
And, but yeah, that was such a great band and great people. I mean, you hear that a lot, but I can assure you, those two
Definitely
are as good as it gets.
Oh
and
yeah,
you know that.
Oh yeah, they're excellent. Marshall, I mean the commitment that he has done. I mean taking care of her, and it's been reminds me a lot of my wife. I mean since I've been sick, it's like, if I go to get up, she's already up grabbing something for me, and it's like I can still get around and walk, but I guess they want to do that, and I know Marshall is like that. It's the same, we'd do it for them, same situation.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things, and to be honest with you, Marshall really hasn't changed. That's just the way he is. And has always been with Lynn. He's
very protective.
And I'll put a plug in for him too. He's one of the best songwriters. He's also one of my favorite singers on the planet.
Oh yeah, he's awesome. I've always loved his. Which tune was it? Didn't he write either a Georgia Girl or a Mountain Girl? He wrote Little Mountain Girl, didn't he?
Mountain Girl, and he wrote Traveling Down the Blue Road.
That's right. Those two for Doyle.
And he wrote Heartstrings that Allison recorded.
Oh heck yeah, that's right. That's money right there.
Of course, the Little Black Pony.
Yeah.
But Marshall has written a bunch of great songs. And actually, he and I wrote a song together. I recorded it for my Time Stand Still album, but I didn't put it on there. And then when we started the Boxcars, we actually recorded it on the first. It's called I've Been Waiting.
I've Been Waiting? Okay.
Yeah, Marshall had started that song, and when I was doing my time stamps, or kind of getting material together for that first record, he said, "Man, I've got a song. If you want to try to finish it, you're welcome to it."
Wow,
and I
that's
said,
cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, yeah,
that is too cool.
Marshall's just a talented dude.
Really good people. But
oh man,
I know that's when I first met you was then.
Yep.
So that's weird.
I remember.
Weird how the circle goes.
Yep.
with things. The
It is.
reason I'd asked you about if you were there when Ike's was playing, it was funny. The Rob and David Greer, we played New York with JD. I think it was JD, maybe in Wildfire. Uh, Maybe it was Wildfire. But anyway, we were in New York, and I was over. That's what it was. I was next door. We'd ordered a pizza and paid for it.
Hmm.
Paid for it with your credit card and everything. So I
Right.
go next door, and I'm paying people. Well, the pizza comes. Rob Ickes and David Greer eats all our pizza and leaves. And Richard Bennett, Richard's one of these guys that he's so small that whatever he eats just drops straight through. And if it,
Right.
he's got when he gets a food urge really quick, he starts crashing. So I remember he come into the
Uh,
room and he said, "Man, where's the pizza? I gotta get me a slice. I'm starting to get the shakes." And he goes over and pops it open, and there's nothing but except a little dish that they brought garlic butter in.
oh
And
my gosh.
he called them everything, but that
I
was
can imagine.
that was pretty funny. But I'm gonna
Oh my gosh.
run through this mail a little bit here, because people's gonna get mad at me. Let me
That's all
see.
right. Go right ahead.
Yeah, that's what I say. Let them get mad at us. No. Joel Marley. Do you know Joel, I bet.
I sure do.
He said, "Hey, Ron, from an old friend." And my buddy Ernie Evans said he hopes my health's good and making music. Yeah, Ernie, sure am. Doing so, but I'm
Yeah.
making it. Let's see. Jesse Jeffries said, "Could you ask Ron if he prefers a fiddle or banjo?" Can I ask you that, Ron?
Yes, you can, and the answer is yes.
That's what I was going to
Uh,
say. Ron, do you prefer?
Honestly, I love them both. I love the guitar. I love the mandolin. I love the bass.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to banjo and fiddle, it doesn't matter to me, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
Sure.
and I'm sorry I missed the question, the person's name that
Jesse,
asked the
Jesse,
question.
Jesse.
Jesse, I love them both, and honestly, um, I started on the fiddle. That was the first instrument that I started to try to play, and you know, maybe it's my most proficient instrument. I don't know, but I love them both, and it doesn't matter to me, honestly, um, what instrument that I'm playing, and to go a step further, um, I've done what the last three albums with Grasstown, playing
Mm-hmm.
guitar on those records,
Wow.
and I've really, I mean, I've been playing guitar almost as long, or trying to,
Yeah.
almost as long as I
Oh
have
no.
fiddle.
Killer
But
player.
you know, oh gosh, no,
Yeah,
I
you
didn't say
are.
it for that.
Yeah, I've heard you
but
play
I
guitar. I
actually,
know.
oh, but I really list. I just love music, and I love all the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably why I work on instruments and um, build and whatnot and
Mm-hmm.
revoice. Just I've always had a love affair with tones of instruments
Mm-hmm.
and different aspects of the different ones. So to answer his question, I love them both. I don't. I'd hate to have to choose.
Well, you sure you're not somebody that plays one better than another. I mean, the IBMA awards have shown that you won on
Oh,
both. And
oh man.
man, I just think, and this, I know it's me and you talking. I'm not trying to get anything from you because you're like me. You're probably broke, so you ain't got nothing to give me. But you
I
know
give you a plastic dollar bill.
that, buddy. That sounds good. That sounds good. I'll, I'll hit you up next time. But I'm like that with you, man. I listen to you, and I hear you play fiddle, and it's like, man, that's the instrument he needs to be playing. Then I hear you play banjo, and I say the same thing. And I hear you play fiddle. It's
Oh
just
man.
you play them both equally well, and
Well, thank you.
That makes a big difference with it. But let's see here.
Well,
Go ahead.
I think it's just one more quick thing on that very subject. I
Sure.
think, in a way, I sound the same on all of them, but I think that's the important part because I'm not great on any of them.
Uh,
But I
okay.
think just because of the love affair that I have with them,
Mm-hmm.
that probably a feel comes through.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense, it's not that I can wow anybody with my technical skills on any of them per se. I just think it's, you know, as with any musician, that plays more than one instrument.
Yeah.
Justin Moses comes to mind, and
Man,
he's as
freak,
good on one as the
a
next.
freak of nature. That guy
Oh,
is.
absolutely,
Um,
absolutely.
he played on this new Dobro thing. He and Sierra, they hit. I can't remember which tune he plays on it now. Fire on the Mountain, and man, they just hit it wide open. I don't know what it
Oh
is,
boy.
but man, it's Jens Kruger speed.
Oh my God.
Art Jens Kruger's second gear speed before he shifts out, and that's pretty quick. Second gear for
That's very quick.
Jens is pretty quick. But
Oh,
yeah, there's people like that, man. But I enjoy both hearing you on both. I mean,
well,
you
thank
know,
you.
I'm not saying that because we're sitting here talking, but
I appreciate that.
I've seen here,
I thank you.
you on fiddle as anybody, and the same with banjo. So
Well, thanks, Phil.
you made some good music, buddy. And let's
Well,
see.
and back at you.
Eh,
Back at you, man.
I've been limited, buddy, but I've had some good opportunities, and I was there at the
You're
right time, I guess. You know,
well, you're a great player. That's
thanks,
just what it is.
thanks, bud. I appreciate you. You've been around some good ones, and it means a lot.
Oh boy.
But let's see, skip on down here. Scott Carroll, hello, Phil and Ron from Kansas City. Michael Carter
Uh,
listening in from East Tennessee, and
right on.
and let's see. Mark Kuykendall did some recording with Curly Seckler. Ron, Larry
Yes.
Perkins, yeah, 25 years ago.
Hey, Mark.
Yep,
Yes,
he's
sir.
on. We were talking about him a couple of days ago. I was over in Asheville, and his name come up, and we were talking. But he's a fine guy. Mark is,
Oh boy.
and
What a talented dude, man.
very talented, very, and got some nice old cars too, and nice new cars.
Oh
He's
man,
he's
that
got.
dude, he's the real deal.
Oh, he is. Have you seen those NASCARs he's got? Uh,
I haven't.
oh man, he's got some like vintage NASCARs, and then some new ones that he's bought. And I mean, these are the real deal.
Wow.
This ain't something that's been painted up. He's went and bought them. And he got a
Wow.
picture I saw some time back. He got a car hauler and had like two really nice cars. It just made me close the page real quick because it's like, man, I'm a failure. I'm never going to have that. So,
Right. I
you
hear
know,
you.
and then looked out the window uh, at my Yugo and said, yeah, that'll get me there quick
Right.
enough, or fairly
Well, I've
quick.
got a vintage Ford dump truck, if that counts.
Yeah, man, me and you both dealing in the heavy stuff for sure. Uh, Keith Camp, hey Phil from Conway, Arkansas. Glad to have you on. Janet Carpenter says hello to
Hey.
me and you. And Michael Carter says, nice, looking forward to hearing the project you and your wife are working on, Ron. Huh?
Oh, thanks.
Oh, yeah, okay, good.
We're anxious to get it out.
Definitely now. Gotcha. Uh, let's see. Tom Richardson, hello from Toledo, Ohio. Now,
Hey, Tom.
here's our buddy right here, and I'm getting ready to bring it up, and you're probably gonna, you know, be ready to go after I tell you who's been listening in. But the legendary big man Chris West.
Oh, there he is, the one and only.
Yeah, he
The
is.
one and only Chris West.
He said he sure looks good in them. Said he'd tell Ron he sure looks good in them jeans. And I have a few pre-ordered
Uh,
dulcimers that he may want to check out. So,
oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. And yeah, man, I'm working. I don't. I'm assuming that you uh, caught the thing that I put on Facebook with the dulcimer, the of Ryder that I
no,
played
I've
dulcimer
not
along
seen
with.
that.
Oh, you probably ought to dig into that, man.
How'd I find
It's a
it?
whole new take on Ryder. When I first joined the scene in 2017,
Uh-huh.
uh, I've known all those guys for years, but I thought these guys will, you know, they'll appreciate this. So um, I was getting ready to fly to, might have been the first gig that we did,
Mm-hmm.
and my wife was there, and I said, "Where's your dulcimer?" She has a dulcimer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I said, we need to put Ryder on, and I'm gonna play along with Ryder on the dulcimer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the hammered dulcimer, obviously, it's the other kind. But
Mm-hmm.
I said, this is. I'm hoping Duffy's looking down somewhere and digging this.
Mm-hmm.
So
You know he
yeah, you'll have to
was.
go back on my page and find the Ryder on the dulcimer.
Oh, I'll have to check that. That's on your Facebook page.
It's on my Facebook page. Yeah, I think it ended up getting something stupid like I don't remember. It was some incredible number like 13,000 views or
Wow.
something like that. But it's funny. But it was kind of one of those things like, yeah, this is got to do this right here. So all that to say, we've been working on a new one. It's
Mm-hmm.
not dulcimer, but we're working on a new one. Um, hopefully for Wait a Minute.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
yeah,
But it won't be off
these
dulcimer.
are things. These are things you would appreciate.
Oh, that's killer. But it won't be on dulcimer, right? Another instrument.
No, no, it's going to be another instrument.
Oh,
It could be auto harp
accordion,
and possibly some accordion.
auto harp. I'm gonna bet on auto harp for some reason.
Auto harp.
Do
Yeah, the
you?
auto harp is it's got a lot to offer, I think, you know.
What's your choice of picks? Like, do you like a blue chip on a auto
On the
harp?
on the banjo.
Oh no, on
Oh,
the
on the
auto
auto
harp.
harp. Oh, well, it's hard to beat the old classic felt pick.
Oh, okay. So you don't three finger the auto harp, right?
Right. Yeah. I just
Eh,
it gives a little softer uh, tone.
well, as
But
Jimmy,
if I was playing Ryder on the auto harp,
you may
I
go three
might go
finger.
with yeah, I might go tortoise on that maybe.
Well, as Jimmy Martin said, you'll figure it out one day and get that all down. You know, but seriously now, speaking of picks, because I know there's a bunch of banjo guys out there.
Yeah.
What's your choice on picks? What do you use for your finger picks, your thumb? And might as well tell us about capos and strings while you're at it, because people are
Well,
wanting to hear.
sure. As for thumb pick, I use the old Nashville
Mm,
large.
mm-hmm.
The That's my preference. Also, I have just a couple of the '60s. We called them clown barf,
Right.
but I think they were DeAndrea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they had a different. Golden Gate makes a good pick now, a thumb pick multicolor,
Mm-hmm.
but they're a different plastic
Yeah,
than the
sure.
old ones.
Right.
Uh, and I love the blue chip material. I have just never been able to do the band
Right.
and get it to feel right for me. Now,
Right.
as for material, I absolutely love it. Um, but I just, all that to say, if you can do the blue chip, man, they're as good as anything there is.
Oh yeah. They
Uh,
and
I
they are
just
hard
have,
to
I
use.
well, the metal band throws me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I've never quite been able to quite make that happen comfortably. And
Yep.
then
Yep.
finger picks, uh, I'm actually I'm an old National Oval 8 guy, but Warren Yates makes my picks, finger picks too, and I
Mm-hmm.
can't tell a difference. The same alloy, same cut, and I use those live all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and strings, I use GHS, the Crow set that starts with the tens.
Is that the studio?
Uh,
Is that the stage version? I think.
that's the stage, I think,
Mm-hmm.
um, on those.
I think 9.5
Capo,
is a studio for him. I think.
that's it.
Yep.
That's it. And a capo, um, I've either a McKinney or I've got um, a capo that JD gave me. It was one of the neat capos that Frank made back in the
Wow.
day, and I really love that capo. I mean, really close to the McKinney.
Well, he was really trying to get you to stay in the band and not leave to come off that.
Oh, I can't even remember what I had at the time. I used to have, I don't know if you remember when Brian Page first started making
I
capos.
do.
Uh, uh, they were stainless at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I've got a couple of his very first prototype capos um, that were stainless. They were very close to a McKinney,
Mm-hmm.
and I've still got a guitar and a banjo capo that I got from him
Wow.
way back there when he
Wow.
first started um, doing capos, and um, it's as good as any other capo I own. But anyway, that's what I use or try to.
You know, I got to tell you a funny McKitty story. Well, there's a ton of them with Crow. You know, I remember times of Crow leaving early from Denton saying, "Boys, we're going to get up and get gone by 7 o'clock," and we'd all say, "Well, we'll make plans for noon." Crow would stop off
Right.
at McKinney's, and we'd leave out there at 10 at night. He'd be there all day. We'd be out
Oh,
there sleeping in
absolutely.
the van, you know. But
Yeah. Yeah.
what's funny that a good story about the McKinney this still cracks me up because Crow sat and laughed at it too. But we're backstage at Denton back in the old days, and here's a McKinney capo sitting over there, and Red Allen comes over, picks it up, jerks on it several times, trying to get it open, can't figure it out, sets it back
Uh-huh.
down, walks out. He comes back by again, and he wanders by, and he picks it up, and he jerks on it again, and it finally pops open and falls on the floor, and he closes it back up and sets it down on the edge of a table. Then he leaves. Then he comes back again, and he walks by and sees it, and he goes, "Is that my blank 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 capo?" Says, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
that is my blank blank capo." And he picks it up, puts it in his pocket, and walks off. And I thought, you know, that's funny. You didn't even know how to open that thing, so it ain't your
Right.
capo. And a few minutes later, I can't mention who it is. Like after we're off the air, maybe they come through saying, "Hey, I left my McKinney over here on the table," and I wasn't going to call out Red or nothing like that, so I just walked
Uh-huh.
on by and said, I think somebody may have picked it up by mistake, by accident." But it was kind of funny because
Uh-huh.
it was obvious he had never even
Oh man.
seen one. It was like he was picking up a laser beam gun from
Right.
Star
I
Trek.
loved all the blank blank
Yeah,
blanks because I think you skipped two blanks in
you
there.
yeah, you know what they were
Oh, I do.
with Red. He had he had his what you said like in Christmas Story. Ralphie's dad, his favorite medium was obscenities. He said he was a master in working in obscenity. My brain's not working tonight.
Yes, he wrote the book on that.
He really did. And whether it was off stage or on stage, you know, he didn't he didn't care. And I remember at Frontier Ranch one year, he was
Uh,
up for throwing some stuff, and
he had his filter would let a lot through.
yeah, it was letting a whole lot through. He had it turned on like uh, only filtering 10%. And I remember Crow, and you know where I'm going with this. Crow comes around to the back of
Okay.
stage, and you see that look. Crow's got his head tilted, and he's pitching between
Uh-huh.
his eyes. You know, when
Yeah.
Crow's pitching between his eyes, you know he's really went too
Uh-huh.
far with him, and he's
Yep.
shaking his head, and he goes back, and
Oh man.
Crow comes off stage and said, "I'm never going to do one of those again next year." Right back
Yep.
there doing it.
Oh, I know it.
Same thing.
I know it.
Never going to do that again. But buddy,
Exactly.
I don't want to keep you up past your bedtime because I know that you have to go to school in the morning. So
I do. I do. Got to catch a bus at 6:30.
I'll be dang. Oh, you be sure and eat a good balanced breakfast.
Yeah,
let's
absolutely.
let's
You know I will.
Well, let's see what we got here. I'm gonna bust through
Sure.
these a little bit. My buddy Tracy Milligan, she's been my nurse, cancer nurse for 10 years, and I lost her for a while and went to another hospital. And there she was. She is such a jewel, but
Oh,
said she's an
well, I'm
inspiration.
glad that
She helped save
you
me.
found her back.
Yeah, man, she's helped keep a lot of people alive without a doubt. They think a world of her.
That's awesome.
But Rex Webb says, "Sound, you know Rex, tap dancing man.
Yeah.
Uh, sounds good and clear tonight. Thanks for having Mr. Ron on tonight."
Oh man,
Yep, yep.
I couldn't be happier, and I appreciate you having me on
Oh,
too,
sure,
Phil.
man. I'm glad you've been on tonight, and mine and your buddy Tim Stafford said, "Great to hear Ron.
Yes, sir.
He's the best."
Oh man, I
And
loved him.
he and
He
you know
is.
and Tim's the best too.
There is one of those dudes, man. That he's the salt of the earth, and he
Yeah,
is an
man.
absolute monster.
Yeah, he is. Gosh, some of the stuff he played with Allison was just
Oh my God.
it was just incredible. And then the stuff he plays with Blue Highway and the songs,
Oh,
he and Steve wrote so many
yes.
good songs together.
I know. I know. And you know that was the last, and this was just before we got shut down um, last winter
Mm-hmm.
for the pandemic. We got to do that session, Stephen and Tim's um, last album together
Right.
there. And man, just I always enjoyed getting to do those
Mm-hmm.
because A, it was fun, and B, you knew it was going to be good, you
Always.
know.
Always.
And Tim has a way in the studio too. I gotta say this. Tim has always been so good to me
Mm-hmm.
and always made me feel better than probably I should have. Um, but in the studio, man, Tim's just he he is as good as it gets as a personality and producer,
Mm-hmm.
and he's just I can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah.
And I'd say the same things about Steve too.
Oh yeah, definitely. And that album has hit number one, or the songs has. Uh,
Oh man,
Bluegrass Today, I think it's like number one and number two. And Steve
that's awesome.
Gully would really be proud to know that,
Yes,
But I'm sure he
yes,
does. I'm sure he's looking down and sees that.
yeah.
But moving on here now, Barbara Eldridge said, uh, Ben said to tell you that it was only one take on Ryder. It was the only take.
Sorry
So,
about that. Sorry about that. I don't doubt that one bit, and he probably told me that, and I was thinking too for some reason. So my apologies, Ben and Barbara.
yeah, they said you're out of the circle. You,
I knew it was coming. I just didn't know when.
well, it come tonight, it looks like, because you come
I
on the
know it looks
program.
like it did.
If you'd have done something
I'll
else
tell you
tonight,
something. Ben Eldridge, I'm gonna give a kick to Ben here.
hmm
Ben Eldridge is somebody who I admire
Yeah.
and respect
Yep.
as much as anybody on this planet, because when I first
Right.
met Ben, and I can't remember when this was. This was maybe back when I was with Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Ben, he's always has time for folks,
Mm-hmm.
and I've never heard Ben be rude to anyone
No.
that wanted to speak to him. And that right there, to me, that's as big as accolade as a person can get
Yep. Yep.
um, in the entertainment business, and not to mention a monster musician.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
we'll just leave that where it's at. But
Exactly.
just the way he is and the way he's been to me, and you know, coming into the scene, and Ben has always had very nice things to say about my playing, even when
Mm-hmm.
it sucked really
Oh yeah.
bad.
Right.
You know, making a bad attempt at trying to do a lick of his or
Mm-hmm.
something, but he's always got kind words to say, and that goes to Barbara too. But and all the guys in the scene, you know, they put up with a lot, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Oh yeah. Sure. Well,
From me,
it makes it good when your heroes are are better than you even think they will be. Um,
yes,
that's what's
yes,
really good. You look up to somebody all your life, and then you meet them, and they're really good, just like Crow and Ben. And
yep, yep,
I had a friend one time that was a country music singer, and he was talking about a disappointment that he was always a big George Jones fan, and said I loved
uh,
him, and said, and then I went and met him, and he met him when he was on a drunk, I guess. Or wait a minute, I ain't supposed to
yep,
say that. When he was when he was in an altered state, and he said
under
after
the
that,
influence.
yeah, he said it's one of them guys I wish I hadn't have met. And then later on they
Hmm.
become like best friends. So
Right.
it's kind of cool how that happens. But people like Ben and all those guys with the
Oh,
scene,
yep,
and we talk
yep.
about our heroes. I can't think of any hero I've ever had musically that was ever a disappointment to me. Uh,
Right.
Aldridge.
Uh huh.
I was scared to death the first time I met Aldridge, and what a nice
Absolutely.
guy. But he was, you
Oh, I
know,
know.
he was Elvis with a dobro, and
Oh my gosh. No, there no one could crease and ever will crease a set of jeans like Mike
oh
Aldridge.
yeah, he's definitely the Lord of the Levi's, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Well, how did has I know Ben may pop this in here, but how did on the road? How did he get that? Did he carry like an ironing board, full size ironing board, and
You
stuff?
know, you
Or
probably need to ask Ben about that, but I'm going to make a wild guess that there was some starch involved
a bunch?
and some military like packing.
Oh yeah, well yeah, because they come right out of the suitcase
Uh huh.
looking. Yeah,
Right.
that's one of the mysteries of Mike Aldridge is
Yes.
people would normally want to come up how you do this lick, but I'm sure a lot of people come up and say, man, how do you get that? How do you get that pleat down the middle
Right.
like that? And I wish I'd have asked
Yep.
him that, but I'm sure
Fred Travers could probably chime in on this.
yeah, I need to call Fred and find out and see
Yep.
what we can do. See if we can have a night on here that we just talk about the Mike Aldridge jeans. I think we could get
Let's.
60
Yeah.
minutes. Yeah, we get 60 minutes out of that, I think.
I'm pretty sure you could. And
But
the boots. We can't forget the
oh
boots.
man, Aldridge was the whole package. I always
He
thought,
was.
and the hair, and one time the
Yep.
sideburns. He was just
Yep.
he was just really killer. But all those guys with the Seldom Scene,
Oh man.
I never got to meet not Eldridge, John Starlin, but once, and
Yep.
he was just he was just as fine as everybody else,
Oh
in
man.
that band. So that makes you understand. I mean, with me, you can be popular because you play good, and but
Uh-huh.
playing good's not always enough. You can
No,
be the best players, and you can be jerks, and you don't have a fan base. And the Seldom Scene had
absolutely.
both sides of that covered. They were great musicians, a great band, and
Yeah,
great guys, and that just made a
absolutely.
big difference. But rolling on down here, Barbara Eldridge said, "Ben like that to Beatles comparison." That was for you, Ben.
Right on. That was for you.
Let's see. Never. Okay. Let's go. Brink Brinkman. Hey, Phil and Ron enjoyed the show. Ron has played on more of my songs than I've written than about anyone else. I
Oh man, what
always
a
get excited.
songwriter.
Yeah, he is. Sure is. Said I always get excited when I hear that Ron's picking on one of my songs. Definitely,
Oh
definitely.
boy. Well, thank you, Brink. I'm always excited to try to cut one of your songs.
Yeah, man. He's a really good writer. Really good writer.
Yes, sir.
And let's see. I'm just don't want to miss anything here. Um, let's see. One minute. Said Rex Webb said each one of the performers you have mentioned tonight has played their part of making our hearts smile, including Mr. Ron and you, Phil. That's very nice.
Oh man, that's great.
And let's see.
That's great.
Barbara Eldridge again. I'm gonna have to cut her off at one time. She gets one free post.
I'm telling you,
No,
yeah, she's taking over the show here.
yeah, hey, but that's all right. No,
It's fine.
I
She
know,
knows I'm teasing.
I know. I hope she knows I am too, because I don't know her like you, but I
She
hope she
does.
knows I am. She says one of the first bluegrass experiences I was sitting with a friend watching J.D. Crowe and the New South at Berryville, Virginia festival. I whispered to my friend, "Which one is J.D. Crowe?" A woman sitting in front of
Yes.
me whirled around and looked at me like I had, I think I've heard the story. Let's see, like I had three heads. She said with a stern voice, "You don't know who J.D. Crowe is?" I slinked down and didn't speak another word the rest of the show.
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
that
that's
is too
funny.
funny.
That's killer. I've heard that before, but it's funny little things like that happens.
That is
Let's see.
that's hilarious.
Uh, Clinton Rich wanted to know. Wait a minute. Let me get this. He said to ask Ron what key does he what key he doesn't like to play on fiddle.
Um, okay, I've got a simple answer for this. The key I don't like to play in is the one the singer doesn't like to sing the song in.
Ain't that always the
And
case?
you know, okay, that sounded like a smart aleck remark,
No,
and I
but
didn't
that's
mean it that way at all.
no, but I
I'm going
don't.
to go. I'm going to expand on that. When I was young, my mom and dad both played, and we had a family band.
Mm-hmm.
And with my mom singing, things got keyed in
Oh
you
yeah,
know different places than you would normally key a song.
right.
So I guess growing up, and of course, the tuning of the early stuff was a fret off. So I would I would play along with LPs and whatnot, and
Mm-hmm.
but I guess that experience, and then if you fast forward way on up in my career with Lynn Morris, she did things in E flat and G sharp and
Right.
all kinds of F sharp, and I just sort of played in those whatever key,
Yep.
or
Yep.
tried to. And as far as that goes, I'll go wherever the song needs to go. Do I have a least favorite? Yes, I do. F sharp.
F sharp. Oh
If I'm going
yeah.
to go least favorite, the reason being, I think for me is because with every other key, um, like G sharp or E flat,
Mm-hmm.
you have a B flat. You've got in the scale or in the five chords, you've got a sympathetic tone from an open string sometimes.
Okay.
F sharp is all closed. I mean, I play an F sharp, but it might be my least favorite for that reason,
Right.
and I it's a relative thing for me, a relative pitch thing for me, I guess. Um,
Well,
be the best way I can describe it, but
I know from being in bands, I always play with guys, and then when I went played with the whites, all their stuff's
right.
in different keys. And then
Hmm.
my next gig, when I went to do play with Dale and Bradley, it's the same, because women have that
Right.
different range.
Sure.
But the good thing it
Yeah.
was for me, and I know for you, it kind of made me expand and have to work a little harder to learn how to play
Absolutely.
out of different keys. And
Absolutely.
and I've always thought that's
Banjo too.
good.
When I played banjo with
Hmm.
Lynn, you know, that was a whole. A lot of things were out of the D chord position,
Oh yeah.
and my whole thing there was how can I play the banjo
Hmm.
out of a D chord, but get a similar drive as I would out of open G.
Right.
Uh, and that's I give so much credit to Lynn and that band for you know having to try to figure something out there on the banjo
Hmm.
to do in those chords, and try to, because I mean not every song you played is a driving song, but there are certain songs that you played with her that needed some sort of drive
Right.
from the banjo in a roll pattern with a lot of open strings going on.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so, and then the second thing is learning to play a melody out of that D position
Exactly.
that I also continue somehow to keep a little bit of that, drive
Sure.
uh, of the open chord type of thing going on with that too. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's a challenge, but I'm grateful for that
Oh
challenge.
yeah. Always being pulled out of your comfort zone every now and then is a
Yes,
good thing. You know,
it's a great thing.
and you always played great in every key that
Uh,
I've heard you playing stuff that you're hitting it just as hard in whether you're in D
oh
or
man,
something else as you would be if you were picking out a G or something. And
well, I thank you. I've got you fooled.
well, we'll find out about that. I got close on my microphone. Sorry, didn't mean to bust everybody. Scratching my head. Uh, had a guy named Alec here, and this was a question I was going to
Uh,
ask you, but I was going to ask you about uh, your Yates banjo. He's asking if you still endorse
uh,
Yates, and I assume you still
uh,
do and still play them. Is that
yep,
right?
yep. I still do. I play a lot of my old Gibsons as well now.
Hmm.
A couple of my old flatheads, but I also play my Yates
Hmm.
as well.
What do you like about that
And
Yates? What what do you
well,
like about it?
Warren and I, when I first met Warren,
Hmm.
um, I've been around all kinds of old flathead banjos, and it just seemed like nothing was resembling that tone. And we started just digging in, like, okay, there's reasons for that, and the
Hmm.
more you dig, the more you find those reasons.
Sure.
And over time, got to a point of where that sound was getting there on those banjos,
Sure.
and it, it's really weird. A metal and a wood instrument do not go together,
Right.
um,
Right.
and that's the challenge. But also, when you have those old flatheads and you have them tore apart, or you look at them and you
Hmm.
you figure out different aspects of not just tone ring alloy, but the fit, the alloy of the tailpiece, the
Hmm.
um, hot metal stretcher bands, and the way the parts fit, and it's everything, and that goes even down to the resonators,
Sure.
the plies and the resonator, what wood they are, and how they're made,
Mm-hmm.
affects all of that. The neck is a huge thing. So,
Does. Yeah.
long story short, yes, I still do, and they're great banjos. I highly recommend.
Well, with like your situation and stuff, and when JD was a big believer in this, he would always tell me, I've got them in the closet. They need to be played, and
Yep.
Crow would, he would play his 75 for a while, and
Right.
he'd usually
Right.
play it 3 or 4 months or a season. Then the next year he'd be
Right.
playing something else. And
Right.
if you quit playing something, I just think they lose it because the vibration, uh, I guess, of
Absolutely.
the wood, they get stiff,
Yep.
and
They sure do.
and it. Makes a difference,
They sure do.
But let's see now. Steve Bruce has got a question here for you. He said, "Did Ron really enjoy picking with Crow as much as he seemed to?"
Yes.
I think he's talking
That's
about
one
did
word.
I think he's
Yes.
talking about did Crow enjoy you being in the band, and I ain't sure about that.
Oh.
No,
Oh.
no, never
Well,
mind.
I can't answer for Crow, but I can answer for me, and the answer for
No,
me is absolutely.
yeah, yeah, buddy. But you guys always looked fun. Like you was having a good time. But everybody that ever
Oh
played with
man,
Crow, Crow was fun because he
he
would
was a
tease you. Oh,
barrel of monkeys.
oh, he was, and people think he's so serious, and
Oh,
he's far from that. He's 180 from
he is 180. He
being
is one.
straight.
I know. One of the early gigs I played with JD was up around Cincinnati, somewhere Hamilton or somewhere up
Mm-hmm.
in there, and we were
Yeah.
playing this theater, and he wanted me to sing "Girl I Love Don't Pay Me No Mind"
Uh-huh.
because he loves that song.
Oh yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, okay." And so I kicked it off and started singing, and Crow came over and started talking to me
Oh gosh,
while
yeah.
I'm singing,
Yeah.
and I absolutely, it caught me so off guard. Like I said, this was really early on.
Mm-hmm.
I probably hadn't played 5 shows,
Oh yeah.
and it caught me so off guard
Uh-huh.
that I forgot every word of that song. And I mean, I was just splitting the gut, and I told him when we got off stage, I'm like, okay, you got me. That'll never happen again. And we were laughing about that, and it never did happen again. Although he would always come over. If there's videos, there's a few videos of me singing that with the New
He's
South, and he
always
would
there.
always come over.
Yep.
He was always there, talking something, you
Always.
know, trying
Always.
and just having a ball.
He would always come over when I had a solo and start talking to me. And
Oh, I love it.
Greg Luck was the funny one because Greg was always like on pins and needles about
Right.
things. It was kind of Greg was always funny, but Crow would always get behind him, and he would know that there would be some song that Greg maybe had just learned and had to
Right.
really think, and Crow would get over and start behind him feeding him the words backwards and stuff, and
Yes.
Luck would tell him, say, get over on your end of the stage, and
Well,
and what do you
I've
do?
got a funny, I've got a kind of a funny Crow thing if I've got time to tell
You got
it.
all kinds of time, buddy.
Well, this right here, it's funny, but it also is a window into Crow, and you
Uh,
can relate to this.
yep.
The first show that Crow had called me way before I ever picked a show with him.
Mm-hmm.
He called me 2 or 3 times. He's like, "Hey, do you know any good fiddle players?" I'm like, "Well, I know of several, but I don't know that the ones that would recommend. They're the few that I would recommend aren't available, or whatever." And he would call me every few days. Have you thought any more about that? And I said, "Well, yeah." And the answer's still the same, because I think I know what you would like. But anyway, And I kept telling him, I'm like, look, if you need somebody for a gig, I'm always available if I'm not working with Lynn. And she's cool with it. You know, I've
Uh-huh.
worked with the LRB,
Uh-huh.
blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And well, I don't like to do that. And I said, well, I can understand that, but, you're welcome to call her. You know, it's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so finally, he was playing the Birchmere, and he called me and he said, "Hey, are you available?" And I said, "Well, I am on that date. I've got to be in Owensboro the next day, but I'll fly up and do that."
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, we get up to the Birchmere, and I knew all the material, except I didn't have the "Come On Down to My World" album.
Okay.
That's the only one I didn't have. So I said, "Hey, can we go over, if you're going to do anything off of that? Can we just run through it real quick here in the back room? The rest of it, I know
Right.
material, but I just don't want to get out there and, poop my pants on
You'll be
stage."
lost. Right.
And yeah. So we get in the back room, and everybody tunes up. And Crow said, "Kick off No Mother or Dad." And I'm thinking, I know that,
Yeah.
but okay. And, I was really kind of wanting to go through because he mentioned a couple of those. And so I kicked it off. And, only version of that, there's one version, it's Flat and Scruggs' version.
Sure.
And so we got done, and he put the banjo down in his case, and he said, "Well, if you know that stuff, my stuff's easy." And I was just floored, like, oh my God, man, wait a minute. Okay, so I know the Flat and Scruggs catalog, but I'm playing with J.D. Crowe tonight.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't
But
know your
anyway,
stuff.
it didn't dawn on me for a good long while, and we were riding somewhere, just me and him.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked him, I said, "You remember at the Birchmere when I wanted to go over a couple of your things that I didn't have the album. I wasn't familiar with that one album." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "You wanted me to play No Mother or Dad." And then we stopped. And I said, I was like, what in the hell is this guy doing? And he said, "Yeah, I didn't care if you knew one note of my songs." He said, "I pretty well thought I knew you as a player, but I wanted to find out." And he said, I knew right then when you kicked it off, we were all good.
That's
And I
Crow.
said, well, I understand a lot more now, what his mindset
Than you did
was.
then. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I just didn't want to make the band sound bad by not knowing something, but he only cared what did you grow up, where are you coming from?
Right. Right.
What
That
which
was.
Bible did you read?
Yeah. Exactly. Were you reading the Gideons or what? What were you into? Crow. I'll
Right.
tell you
Were
this.
you
It's funny. You'll appreciate this, being a banjo player. But when I was working as a nurse, I was having a really bad day, and Tony King, a buddy from Knoxville years back,
Yep.
had been up in Lexington working, and then Richard Bennett went up, and anyway, I do my best to try to get Crow, so I'm going through the old, back when you could do 411 and you get different states. Well, I was
Right.
calling on the work phone, and I found JD's number, and I dial, and I get this voicemail, and I hear this scratchy little voice. I said, that ain't JD, that ain't Crow. So I didn't leave a
Right.
message. So I called him back, and I told him, I said, hey, I wanted to call and talk to you and about maybe playing some, and he said, yeah, Richard Bennett, mention your name. And I said, well, that's really nice that he did. And Crow said, I never did like dobro players. And I just kind of like, oh Lordy, I might as well hang up. And
Right.
he said the reason he didn't like them, he said that when Josh Graves came into Flat and Scruggs, he said I hated it because he was knocking Earl out of a banjo break. And I said, how many banjo breaks does Earl need in a song? Does he need 20? or what that you don't want to allow Uncle Josh one dobro break. And Crow
Right.
says, but then Jerry Douglas came in the band, and I thought dobro fit pretty good in my music, but I still wanted those fiddle solos in there, or banjo
Right.
solos. So it was real funny because from that call, I thought, oh wow, okay. And then at the
Exactly.
very end, he says, "Could you come up next week and rehearse?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'll be up." But it was real funny because when he said that, it was like, "Wow, okay,
Oh, but
I
yeah,
but
he
absolutely,
killed you right there.
oh,
You're
he
dead before you start.
oh yeah, he'd stab me in the heart pretty deep, and it's like, But it was funny. When I went up there, he
Oh,
said, "I want you to come up and maybe rehearse for an album," which wound up being Flashback. And
right.
he said, "We're going to do this in a couple weeks. I want to get you to come up and rehearse." So I come up and rehearse and go through that, and then I go up and rehearse again, and I go up, and anyway, about 2 years later, we get in the studio and do Flashback,
Right.
and that's the way Crow was with stuff. I mean, he would be
I know
like,
it.
but it was funny. One day we're going down the
Oh,
road.
that's hilarious.
One day we're going down the road, and Crow, you know how he is. He never. I don't know if he ever told you you were hired, but when I come in the band,
No.
he never. Same here. We're going down the road, and I said something, and he said, "Now, Phil, I told you back when I hired you." And I said, "Back when you what?" And he
Uh,
said, "Back when I hired you." And I said, "So I'm hired?" And he said, "Well, I said back when I hired you." And Kurt's over driving. Kurt says, "Now wait a minute now. You ain't ever told me that I've been hired." And Crow says, "I never have I?" And just went back over to read this newspaper. And but I got to tell you a funny Dwight McCall and JD. And I may have told this on here before, but you got to hear it. We're going down the road one night,
yes.
and Dwight's driving, and everybody's asleep. And you know how Crow would get over there on. He always held that briefcase when he was sleeping,
Uh-huh.
and like somebody was going to
Yep.
steal something. And he didn't keep money
Right.
in it. He kept cigars and whoopee
Right.
cushions and hot gum
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like that. So we're going down the
Loaded
road.
cigarettes.
Yeah, loaded, get cigarette load. Yeah, he didn't keep valuables in there. So we're going down the road one night, and there's nothing around, and I'm halfway asleep in the back, and everybody's asleep, and Crow's over there. He kind of looks like a vampire. He's rolled over there with his hair all slicked
Right.
back, and he's got his reed glasses on, and he's holding that briefcase, and you can tell he's asleep because it's bouncing up and down on him. And I hear Dwight start coughing, and Dwight says, "Crow, uh, man, my throat is so dry," and we're not passing anything. I mean, we were like in Ohio, upstate.
Right.
And he says, "Crow, you have some gum or something that I can have?" And Crow puts his glasses on. He goes, "Oh, let me see." And Crow comes up out of a dead sleep, gets that briefcase, reaches in, just real easy, unzips a little Ziploc, hands Dwight a couple pieces of gum, and then Crow looks around at me after being awake maybe 1 minute, and he grins.
Uh-huh.
And I said, "Oh
Uh-huh.
God, where's this going?"
Uh-huh.
So
Here we go.
Dwight pops this gum in his mouth, and all of a sudden, Dwight is calling, but he's talking to Crow like Red Allen would, if that tells you anything.
Right.
And
Right. Yes.
he's threatening to kill Crow and everything, and Crow gave him ghost pepper gum. And
Oh my God.
oh, it was terrible. Dwight was going in the trash can, picking up bottles, trying to get little drips where somebody had left them in. And I remember he grabs one of them to turn up, and Kurt put cigarettes out in it. He caught it, and
Oh.
but he didn't get it in his mouth. And he goes off on JD, and he said, "JD, we're going to stop up at the next place where we can get something to drink." And Crow said, "Well, that'll be all right, Dwight." He said, "If you need something to drink, And Dwight said, I ain't talking about getting something to drink. He says, I'm talking about beating the blank out of you.
No.
And Crow starts laughing about it. And we get on up the road, and Dwight said, our Crow says, let's pull off up here and go in and get us something to drink. Everybody run to the restroom, and Dwight says, JD, you don't want me to pull off to the next rest area. He said, you better wait about 100 miles to cool down, because he said, the New South will be the end as soon as we hit this next rest area. He said, it will be over with. And Crow just, Crow laughed about that, but that was a funny story that got to my mind.
Oh, man.
But I'm going to hit the rest of,
Crow,
yeah,
he
man.
lived for that.
Oh yeah, it was worth every minute, just not being around so much being around your heroes, but getting to catch these funny things about him. People would say he's always serious, ain't he? I said for about when you're walking up on stage, and he's not even serious when he's on stage. He's going around behind you bothering you and stuff. And
Yep.
I know Greg Luck, he'd go over to Greg Luck, and Greg Luck would run him off. He'd go, get out of here, go over there. Then he'd come over to me, and I'd run him off. But
I used to, after he did the Girl I Love Don't Pay Me No Mind trick, I would go up to him after that, and you'd be in some, he had certain solos that weren't his favorite to play. Mm-hmm. And if he got on one of them, I'd go over and say, is that an arch top you're playing today? Things like that. And he'd grin. But you know this too, if you caught him where the sound was really bad.
Oh, God.
And his band was really bad, you could get him going in a heartbeat.
Oh, buddy, one of the only things we ever had with us where we really dueled is we played up at Covington, Ohio, and so the guys got all the mics jacked up pretty good. And all he's wanting is a sound check, right? So he could start tuning the mics, turning them down, turning them up. Okay, yeah. So anyway, I'm first up there at the microphone, and Crow's around the end, and the guy says, let's start with a dobro. Well, now it's not my fault. I'm not the sound man. So anyway, I just walk up to the microphone and hit it, because the guy hadn't even started touching it. The minute I hit that string, Crow grabs his head, and he comes over and looks over at me. He goes, son, now it ain't going to be all dobro night here tonight. With that, he looked towards the sound man. He says, hey, buddy, said, you need to turn that dobro way down. And he goes, now, when we get around, he goes, we need to get the Banjo up, we need to get that dobro down. And the guy calls back through the talkback, and he says, well, sir, I was just getting line checks to make sure they was working. And he says, well, that one over there on that dobro's, all right, Blake dobro's working pretty good. And I forget who it was playing with us, but they looked over and laughed and said, Crow, they're just saying he's wanting to see if the microphone's working. He goes, that one over there is working. Well, Crow gets over there and hits his banjo, and it just kind of blows everything up. And I looked over and I grabbed my forehead and I said, man, that banjo's busted my skull. And he goes, remember whose name's on the check, son. But as quick as we get mad at each other, which is only a couple of times, Crow wouldn't stay mad long. He would, within 5 minutes, he was over it. And I like people like that. I don't want people to be mad and go carry it on. It's best people just tell you what's going on. And Crow was awesome. I loved him to death. And he's awesome. But I'm gonna knock these last ones out and let you. I know, like you said, you got to catch a school bus early in the morning. But
I do.
Brinkman said that he thinks you played on an album with me and Steve Gully and Alan first started doing Grasstown, a song called "Devil's Road," and I think you
Yep.
did play on that one. That was our
Yep.
that was our
I think so.
that was our first album. And
Yep. I remember that.
let's see. I'm gonna skip on down here because I don't want to hold you up here. Kristen Davis said, "Hey there, Phil. How you doing? I'm doing better that I've got Ron Stewart on the line. We always have to catch up." And John McNeely, hello,
Yes.
Phil and Ron. You two are the best. Well, appreciate that.
Oh,
Appreciate that, John.
big thank you.
Yeah, definitely.
Phil's
Bring,
great. He's taking up the slack for me.
oh, I don't know about that, but now if you ever need a fiddle player, don't call me with that. But I can't play. I I tell
I
you,
can't either. Just don't tell anybody.
man, I got to tell you, I hate always telling these stories, but this is a killer story that reminded me of fiddle. Uh, I went down. We played a festival in Alabama one time, and it was a big festival they used to have there. I can't remember the name of the town, but they always brought in the big people. So
Hmm.
third time out was out on stage, and I can't play one lick on a fiddle. I don't even know how to start. So
Right.
I go out on the stage there, and third time out kicks off something like "Raining in L.A." or something. I'm sitting there
Yep.
holding that fiddle in my hand, just kind of because I watch you guys hang your finger
Yep.
through the bow where it looks pretty cool. So I
Yep.
sitting there just doing that, and it come up time to take a solo, and I stepped up to the mic and I stepped away and didn't take a solo, and anyway
Oh man.
they finished a song on out, and when they did, Russell looked over and says, "Why didn't you take a solo on that one?" And I looked at the sound man and said, "Man, I can't play fiddle on this kind of microphone." And said, "This
Oh my
this
gosh.
doesn't capture the real sound of my microphone and or my fiddle." And I said, "So I ain't gonna be able to do this." And I walked off the stage. Well, about 5 minutes later, sound man come around and said, "Well, what kind of mic were you needing?" And I said,
Oh my
"The
gosh.
one you had out there, the one that didn't pick me up because I can't play a note on the fiddle." And the crow thought that was the funniest thing because Crow knew what was going to go on. He come down front
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
sit. But
That is absolutely killer.
well, it's some of them crazy things you do, you know. But let's see what.
Oh, that's what makes it fun, man.
Oh, it is, man. It is. It really is. And it's been great having you
People
on
don't
here tonight.
realize if you don't do this stuff every day, Ronnie Reno and I have talked before, and it's like we don't get paid to play, we get
Hmm.
paid to travel,
That's right.
and
That's right.
the playing is fun.
Hmm.
It's the things beyond the playing
Traveling.
that is hidden from view
Hmm.
that is the challenge. You may have driven or flown from Timbuktu, and you've slept up 20 minutes in your rental car seat,
Yeah, exactly.
and you're walking out on stage, and you have to be in
At
in
at your best.
yeah, and then you're thinking, okay, I've got to leave here and drive 4 hours
Yeah.
tonight
Hmm.
to make tomorrow
Right.
uh, in another corner of the world.
Hmm.
And that's the part that's always
The worst. The
the
worst part.
unseen parts. The
Yep.
unseen parts. And I used to. I guess growing up, I've been playing in a band since I was basically 7 years old.
Hmm.
So I got to see some of that, albeit at a lower level. But experienced that growing up, and so I sort of sometimes I understood. Hey, these performers are they're coming in and blah blah blah, but I try to think about that in regards to other folks when I see them out too, because I think, man, I don't I know how precious sometimes 10 minutes before a show or
Right.
15 minutes of just nothing can be.
Oh yeah.
um, and I try to always think of that with my fellow musicians too, like, okay, I don't want to come over and you've just drove in at the last minute, and you're getting your stuff out, and I don't want to come over there and
Start
be in your
bothering you.
square, and
Yep.
you're right. But it is something that sometimes is hard as a fan
Hmm.
to fathom, you know,
Yep.
um, as to what's behind the scenes.
Man,
You know,
I've had that conversation so many times where people would say, "Man, I'd love to be able to do this what you're doing for a living." It's like,
right?
it's not an easy living at all,
No, it's
and
not. It's
it's a
not.
tough job. People will come up and said,
Yep.
"Man, that's some easy money," and I'm thinking the fun times when you're on stage. Now, I've got
Right.
people I enjoy traveling the roads with, like me and Gully. Gully made
Right.
the miles go quick, but at the end of the
Sure.
day, you get done at a gig and it's one of those nights that you say, I'm going to drive home, and you get home at 4:30 in the morning
Right.
and trying to
Yep.
load in, and about the time you're going to bed,
Yep.
other people in the house, your wife, whoever, is
Right.
getting up and you're just
Yep.
trying to be quiet. Sometimes
Sure.
you go in and throw down on the couch so you don't wake them up, let them
Right.
have their last 3 minutes before they go, do what they have to do,
Right.
and stuff. And it's just,
Absolutely.
it's
Absolutely.
a hard
And the
thing.
all night drive home. You might be playing in Georgia, and your son or daughter has a game the
Hmm.
next day at noon,
Exactly.
and you're driving in all night, or you're flying in on a red eye or an early morning, and you're trying to, and those are, for anybody that thinks it's easy, it's not.
No,
Uh,
it's
it's
not.
it's not easy at all. It's one of the most challenging things. Anybody in any sort of entertainment business will tell you that
Oh, it is.
it is some of the most challenging work you will ever do. And I poured concrete and finished concrete and operated heavy machinery out of high school,
I didn't know that.
and that's as hard a work as you'll ever want to do. But there are aspects of what I do now that, in their own way, are harder than that.
Tougher. Well, it's a
You
lot
know,
more mental because you know,
absolutely.
it's like you said, you have to hit the stage. These
Yep.
people don't want to see, they don't want the fact that, you're worn out or whatever else. They
Right.
want to see you at your best. And
Sure.
when you come out
And they're
there,
paying money to see you at your best.
they are. And with people, not only now, but the way it's always been, you got recorders running
Hmm.
now. And then, and just when you
Oh yeah.
have a real bad night where you drove forever and you're not your best, that's what
Right.
pops up on YouTube. And
Well, that's on my I have 300 notifications of that worst performance ever on my Facebook page.
really, you got that many?
No, you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
That's the one that's going to catch the attention.
Yeah, yeah. I thought you was talking about your dulcimer. uh,
Oh no,
but no,
no,
you're
but
right. You're right. It
yeah, the
is
bad
funny.
performance.
It is funny that
Yeah.
it is the one that you don't like, because I remember
Right.
years ago walking up to people, uh, and I can't remember uh, who particular. I wanted to thank Jimmy Martin on one thing, but before I got to know Jimmy very well, I was still, very. I don't mean to sound bad. I was very respectful of Jimmy, and still kind of
Right.
was. I saw him be kind of rude to Crow a whole bunch, but
Right.
I remember, like in that situation with Jimmy Martin, he'd come up, and I would come up and want to talk to him and things like that, and
Yep.
Jimmy would just, if he got tired, he would just get up and leave, and it's
Yep.
just kind of funny how things, how
Yep.
things are. It's a different thing. You can't really act like they used to years ago, or
No.
some of the people
No.
do, because people are running video cameras constantly,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's all they need is and that's what they want to post. They want to see you really mess up on something, and then
Right.
put it
Yeah.
in and hope it goes viral.
And
See,
that's not hard for me. That's every show, every
well,
song. If anybody's
well,
out there wanting to
oh,
catch that.
well, I know better than that. That's more me. But if you get stiff on a banjo one night, you just go pick up the fiddle. You can just go back and forth. But
Well,
but
yeah. If I'm stiff on the banjo, chances are I may be that way on the fiddle too. But
I
I
doubt
hear
that.
what you're saying.
Buddy, I'm gonna knock out the rest of these. I promise, let you go to bed. I will stick with them this time. Um, let's
That's
see.
okay. Uh,
Let's see. Let me get this thing scrolled because these are pretty good. Uh, crap. Wait a minute. Okay, I can hit it from this angle maybe. All right, here we go. Now, uh, Barbara Eldridge said Elise did not crease Mike's pants. Mike did, and he used starch. I believe that. You know,
I believe it.
I believe. I mean, part of that's right. She said he used starch. Some of that's right. I
Yep.
would change it to say, and he used heavy starch. Would be
I would go. I would go along with that.
and and Barbara also says the velvet ropes. You know
Oh,
you know what that is? I don't.
velvet ropes.
Hmm.
That rings a bell, but she may have to expand on that a bit.
Yeah, she's listening. She will. Said Mike's a great guy and a great friend. Or was a great
Yep.
friend. Wait a minute, I've got a cough here. I got to
Yes.
turn my mic off.
Yep. Yeah, Mike. Fred would be a great guy to have on to get some Aldridge stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I wanna get Fred. I want to get Fred on. He's
I'll tell you, man. These I want to say this before I get off of here. Those guys in the scene, man. Um, they're absolutely a 10 plus, every one of them,
oh yeah.
and I absolutely have fun every time that I see them. But every time we walk on stage, man, it's fun, and I can't thank them enough for all of them, Ronnie and Fred and Dudley and Lou, um, for having me in the scene, man. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, I'm sure it's across the board with them too, having you in the band. I
Well,
mean, now Dudley's somebody I'd like to get some time into,
you
just with
should.
his
He's
career.
great.
Yeah, I love Dudley.
Oh man.
Everybody in the band, man, I
Yeah.
really like. Matter of
Oh
fact,
man.
um, Braid's messing up. Ronnie Simpkins. I saw Ronnie when he was first learning to play bass, and he was playing at a place here in town. Buddy's Barbecue was the name of it, and he played with a band called
Yep.
the the Upland Express. And
Oh wow.
that's a law. That's 77 maybe 78. And
No kidding.
I remember he
Wow.
had electric bass and he had electrical tape at like A and C and D,
Uh huh.
and he
Yep.
was using one finger chords on it. He'd stick it index
Oh, that's
finger
awesome.
across. But man, he's turned into a hoss bass man over the
Oh
years,
my God.
without a doubt.
He's one of my all-time favorite bass players. And I
Hmm.
first saw Ronnie. This was in maybe '89 or '90.
Tony Rice,
Um,
maybe.
yeah, when they were playing in Dayton,
Hmm.
and I always forget the name of the bar that they were playing in, but uh, I got tickets. I was in the center table, front center table, right in front of the stage,
Hmm.
and obviously, um, it was amazing. But that's the first time I saw Ronnie live, and he just blew me away. But I tell you, man, Ronnie is
Great
he is a
guy.
whale of a musician. Oh my gosh, it's just
Hmm.
such a he's an amazing fella.
Oh yeah, he and Ricky both were just,
Oh,
their family jams were pretty
absolutely.
good. Really
Oh my
having it,
God,
and I think Tony,
Ricky's a monster player.
Ricky is, and I think Tony playing with Tony Rice really was the thing that made that made them even better. They were always great, but being
Yep.
with Tony and playing that groove that Tony played
I'll tell you,
really showed.
when when you play, anytime that you played with Tony, and I've said this, and Ronnie and I have talked about this a million times, and other folks, but you, Tony, made you a better player
Hmm.
instantly, and you would play things with Tony you didn't even know you could play,
Right.
and you know, Crow Crow and Tony kind of have a parallel about them, that they make you better
Hmm.
without giving you directions
Hmm.
per se. They can
Exactly.
make you better just by being there, and that's a rare trait
Oh yeah.
in band leader or musician or whatever, that just playing with them makes you better.
Yeah, no doubt about
Um,
that.
and,
Because
yeah,
they're not going to drop their end of they're not going to drop their end of the what you say their end of the canoe or whatever.
right.
They're
Oh no,
they're going to if you try to back off, they're going to be right there putting it on you. And
absolutely.
and they both were like that. And you and I both have had a chance to play with JD and with Tony.
Sure.
And it's
and
just
and it's priceless.
yeah, it definitely is to get to play with your heroes, man.
Yep.
That's the big deal. But I'm gonna skin right
They were
down,
they
man.
were coaches. They were coaches that didn't verbally coach per se.
Exactly. They
They were
were
the coach, yeah, that could coach you by example, and you wanted them to do that,
sure.
and you wanted to follow whatever it was they
Hmm.
were happened to be trying to,
Do
you know, to
yeah,
have you do, or improve,
right.
whatever the case may be, but you wanted to.
They were kind of one of those team coaches, like when Pete Rose was still playing ball, but he was the coach. You remember that?
Yes.
And
Yep.
they were like that with what they did.
Absolutely.
Um, but anyway, let me hit you some more here. I swear I'm gonna let you go.
Sure.
Uh, got a guy here wanting to know, why is a skillet head called a skillet head?
All right. Well, I have an old flathead banjo that it's a 48 or 49 bow tie style 250, but it's not a bow tie 250. It's got a pre-war flathead 75 ring and a fat
Hmm.
rim from the pre-war era and
Mm-hmm.
flange, blah blah
Mm-hmm.
blah. And that banjo was apparently a prototype,
Mm-hmm.
or an employee built banjo. And Robbie Boone, the first time that he was aware that I'd gotten the banjo, and we were playing Starvey Creek, and he
Mm-hmm.
played it, and he said, "Well, I have no questions of what it is." And we were just talking. He said, "When I hear you play that, that's your flathead." And everybody has that instrument
Sure
that's
they do.
theirs.
Sure they
It's
do.
just like it's part of you. And anyway, we were talking, and he, you know, somehow names of instruments was in the conversation, and he said it wouldn't matter if you called that thing skillet head.
Hmm.
And I
Okay.
said, right there's his name.
Oh, okay.
And so that's Robbie Boone actually named that old flathead.
That is cool.
Uh, yeah, and the banjos that the Yates banjos that are patterned after that particular banjo, we called skillet head.
Gotcha. I didn't know that.
So
I had
yeah,
heard that.
so that's how that came about.
Well, speaking of Robbie Boone, that was another guy that Crow
Oh my
always
gosh,
just really talked about being the guy.
he's a monster, and he can play crow
Oh yeah.
as good as anybody on this planet.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And you know, we I can't remember which band it was we had, but we were going to try to get Robbie Boone one time, and he's just so far over there. And I got sidetracked. Barbara Eldridge just telling us what the uh,
Oh,
velvet ropes are. It says whenever Duffy introduced Mike, he would talk about the velvet ropes that surrounded Mike. Like,
that's it.
yeah, that's right. Like he had his own little area,
Yep,
which
yep, yep.
that's pretty funny right there. But
That is.
anyway, we've run down through most all the emails. Most of them are just things saying hi and stuff. But man,
Right.
I know you got
Larry
to
the Legend.
run, Larry the Legend. But
Yep.
man, I'm so tickled that you're playing with the Seldom Scene. You're doing a great job
Oh,
with
me
those
too.
guys,
Well,
and
thank you.
I hope that this pandemic will let up and we can
Yep.
get back to playing. I mean, I've had both of my shots in February, so I'm good.
I got mine about a month ago.
Have you had your second one then?
Yep, yep. I had my second one, and I never even knew I had either one of them.
Me neither.
So,
And the thing about it right now, we're pretty good. I mean, I know this from being a nurse and being
right.
around medical people all week. We're pretty good at being out without masks at this point.
Uh-huh.
But, the funny thing I always say, I still wear a mask because if you
Me
walk
too.
in somewhere, people look and say, why ain't that, guy wearing, why's he running
Right,
around here without a mask on?
right.
But, I think it's also changed our comfort levels. Or
Yep.
I got run out of the car and, well, not run. I don't run. I'll walk fast, but I'll run.
Right.
But got halfway in the store and realized I didn't have my mask on, and it's almost
Uh-huh.
like running in without your pants on. You
Absolutely.
catch that.
Absolutely.
But there'll be a time. It's coming.
Yep.
It won't be like it was, but we'll all get back to these festivals again. And
Yeah, and you know what? I think maybe the positive thing from all of this might be,
people being cleaner like from now
I
on.
think so. If you look at the flu season that we really didn't have this year,
Mm-hmm.
thank God.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know that a big part of that has to be from
Masks.
and keeping our hands
Sanitized.
sanitized clean
Yep.
more.
Yep.
Especially, I think, especially in schools too.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Um,
definitely.
Because that's where outbreaks of the flu a lot of times
Start at.
get some legs.
Mhm.
And if there's one thing, positive, I think everybody can maybe learn something off of that we've done a pretty good job of, or at least and whatnot have really done a pretty daggone good job of keeping the flu from being a
Yeah,
major factor
definitely,
in this past year. And that's not
definitely.
downplaying the pandemic at all.
No, no, I
Uh,
understand that.
at
It's
all.
true. That's
But I
true.
believe that it could be something that, if we're looking for a positive, that could be one of the positives.
I agree, and I say the same thing. I just think, there's so much bad stuff that's come out, but there's so much good
Yeah,
stuff and new things
right.
we've learned. And I think as a society, I mean, we look back, man, we were a nasty society, and
Absolutely.
you know,
Absolutely.
it's funny because I remember pre-pandemic, you go into the men's restroom and you know what they look like.
Oh my
They're
God.
not fit for a dog to go in. And
Right.
you go in there now and they're spotless. And
Yep.
and going in
And you think about things that we, like you said, as a society, we become complacent on things like
we do.
grabbing a gas pump handle
Oh yeah.
or a door handle or whatever.
Mhm.
And now
I won't ever do
it's
that
front and
again.
center.
Yep.
Right, right.
Yep. Front and center. And I'm like you. I just think it's going to be different with a
Yep.
lot of stuff. And you know, as you mentioned, door handles, gas pumps. Uh,
Right.
I get out
Shopping carts.
shopping carts. Yeah, I get out when I go to pump gas. If I do pay at the pump, I've got this spray alcohol. I spray the whole
Yep.
thing, the whole
Yep.
keyboard down. And
Yep.
people just don't think about that, but there's still a bunch of people
Right.
out there that life hasn't changed for during this pandemic.
I know.
They've not tried to wear a mask. They've not tried to be any
Right.
cleaner or
Right.
anything. And those are going to be the people I'm going to stay away from as much as I can because they'll
I'm
make me sick. You know.
I'm with you. It's the thing with my parents haven't been to a grocery store since last February,
Well, really.
and yeah, me and my wife and my brother have got their groceries every week,
Mm-hmm.
and cleaned their groceries and things, and I I stepped into the house for the first time about, I don't know, 20 days after my second shot, and
Oh,
just
wow.
for a minute, but I hadn't even been inside their house. I would go up
Wow.
every day, but
I
just out
understand.
of I don't want to inadvertently bring something, you know, to
The-
anyone. It wouldn't have to be
Right.
my parents, but
Right.
that's the whole deal. It's like the mask is really for the folks
Mm-hmm.
that are around you as much as it is for you.
That's exactly
You know,
right. Exactly right.
um,
And you're
because
probably.
a lot of this thing is so weird that it's asymptomatic
Mm-hmm.
so many times, and you're basically a carrier,
Yep.
so to speak.
Yep.
And that's the danger. Whereas the flu, you've got it.
Yeah. Right.
Um,
Right.
and there's been so many folks that are asymptomatic, and that's where it gets out. And
Exactly.
it's an odd behavioral virus.
It really is, and it's going to just be different when the time
Yep.
comes when we're in our cars and we don't see all those masks hanging on
I
everything.
know.
I've got
I
my
know.
I've got my dialysis mask on my turn signal, my
Yep.
regular masks for going in stores on my right, and then I've got my disposables in the middle for people I may be around that don't have a mask.
Right.
So it's
Right.
it's just funny how we do stuff.
Yep.
But buddy, I want to see you on the other side when we get well from all this stuff and get to
Yes,
hang out
sir.
again. And I know I told you it was going to be 30 minutes tonight. I didn't mean to keep you so long, but it's been fun catching up
Oh,
with you.
I've had a ball.
You know, and it seems like everybody else enjoyed listening to us hang out tonight. So it's been
Well,
a
I sure hope so. I've had a great time, Phil, and I
same
can't
with you.
thank you enough for having me on.
Same
And
with you.
thank everybody for listening in.
Yeah, man, definitely. And buddy, thank you so much. You know how I feel about you, and
And back at you, Phil.
well, I
And I
appreciate that.
appreciate that.
Appreciate that, and we will catch up here. This thing will be clear, and we'll be able to hang out and talk
Yes,
about
sir.
talk about Gully a little bit and laugh
Yes.
and all that
Yes.
stuff. So, buddy, you take
I
care of
look forward
yourself.
to it.
Well, definitely here. You take care of yourself and just keep doing what you do, buddy. You're doing it right, and thanks for spending time with us tonight.
Um, Thank you, Phil, and back at you 1,000 times. I can't wait to be able to hang a little bit and catch up and pick a tune or two.
Sounds like a winner, buddy. I'll play a little
All
fiddle
right,
for
buddy.
you. See ya.
I would love that.
No, you wouldn't. You have a
You
good
take
night.
care, my friend.
See you, buddy. Bye bye.
You too. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks to everyone that tuned in tonight. Didn't mean to run so long, but everybody has stayed glued in. So I know that having Ronnie on and getting to hear him talk and tell stories and things like that been good. Been good for me. Hope it's been good for you. I'll see you next Thursday. I don't know right now who my guest will be, but it'll be a big hitter. I always try to do that. You have a great night. God bless. Take care of yourself. Remember to wear your masks till you get those vaccinations. See you later.